Hello guys, we are back in new fanfic, and if enjoying this then please share and like part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. The scene was a horrifying sight. The dark fighter stood with one arm through his enemy, and the other part holding his enemy's right shoulder, locking him in place, just waiting for the blonde to cry and beg him for mercy, or once again to beg him return to the village he just defected from, Konoha. The village hidden in the leaf, a place he despised. It was a pathetic piece of land, full of weaklings, crybabies and annoying banshees. The boy, a young Uchiha called Sasuke, got a very tempting offer from the leader of the village hidden in the sound, Orochimaru. An offer to train him, give him the power he longs for and deserves, to be able to finally avenge his clan and wipe out the bane of his existence, Itachi Uchiha. Of course though, the village and the Godime Hokage, Tsunade Senju, had a problem with him leaving and sent out a group of ninja to retrieve him. Namely Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba, Neji, Rock Lee and Naruto. While the most ninja were distracted by the elite of Orochimaru, the Sound 4, Naruto followed Sasuke to the fated place they are now standing at, the Valley of the End. Between the stone eyes of the Shidime Hokage, Hashirama Senju, and the first Uchiha, Madara, now 2 genin stood, or rather one, while the other one was still lifted in the air by a now non-electrified hand. Sasuke was surprised by the amount of power the supposed dead last had, especially after he formed a Rasengan and used Kyuubi's chakra, turning him into a fierce, animalistic warrior. Though still, the self-proclaimed Avenger was in for the biggest surprise yet. Naruto slowly lifted his gaze to look into the traitor's red Sharingan eyes, and much to the Uchiha's surprise, Naruto didn't cry, or begged for anything or just instantly died. No, he smiled. The only more surprising thing than that was the words that he muttered hoarsely. Thank you. The warrior in his curse mark second state was briefly speechless, but then answered. For what, Dobi? For ending my existence. Even with a venomous seal poisoning his thoughts, the traitor was visibly surprised by his answer. The hyperactive idiot, with his eternally lasting, shit-eating grin, was grateful that somebody'd him. Said knucklehead interrupted his thoughts. I have finally fulfilled my purpose. Everyone back in Konoha made it very clear that I'm worth nothing. I'm not allowed to eat, to be trained, and certainly not to be liked, loved, or appreciated. He then tilted his head a bit downwards, and coughed up a little load of blood, which landed on the floor. With his last ounce of power, he looked back into the Avenger's eyes, with tears forming in his eyes, and an even brighter, grateful smile on his face, while a free-flowing line of blood left his mouth. I hate this village as much as it hates me, and I am finally able to let go. The only thing that makes me happier than to die, is knowing that you'll pass out from chakra exhaustion, and someone will drag you back to this hellhole. Congrats, you deserve each other. Everyone will be relieved. Kakashi has no one that expects to be trained every day, Sakura won't have me begging her for dates, and you won't have me standing in your way. You'll never have to endure the pranking demon dead last anymore, sorry for bothering you all with my existence. His last words would be something the Uchiha would not forget, while Naruto looked deeper into his eyes, and placed his hand on the Avenger's shoulder in an almost brotherly way. These words were, thank you, Sasuke. Today, you turned the world into a truly happier place. Not able to endure the sight any longer, especially seeing the severity of his gaping wound and his already deadly blood loss, Sasuke pulled out his hand, letting Naruto fall backwards, straight down the waterfall. This is the end. The last thing Naruto felt was the air running through his hair and the water splashing around him. After looking a last time into his rival's eyes, he closed his peacefully. Hold your breath and count to 10. Sasuke watched the lifeless body of his former teammate accelerate towards the lake at the bottom of the Valley of the End. He dropped to his legs, and clutched his hair. Feel the earth move and then hear my heart burst again. His now aching red Sharingan eyes released a few tears, while he continued to watch the corpse of the blonde flow down together with the waterfall. For this is the end. I've drowned and dreamed this moment. The body of the Jinchuriki, seemingly in a deep slumber, painted the water from the cascade red, coating him more and more in his own, now watery blood, until he landed into the lake with a resonating splash sound. So overdue, I owe them. Swept away, I'm stolen. His body went down the lake without a single move. His mind was already blank, his senses dull. The only thing holding him barely alive was Kyuubi, but the struggle against water was almost pointless. Let the sky fall. When it crumbles, we will stand tall, and face it all together. An unknown force dragged him into a little cave-like hole at the bottom of the lake. Meanwhile, Sasuke felt himself succumbing to the chakra exhaustion, and passed out, lying beside the torrent of water. Let the sky fall. When it crumbles, we will stand tall, and face it all together. At skyfall, in the forest nearby, a few minutes ago. Come on, Pakun, we have to go faster, a gray-haired, masked man yelled, while running towards the direction his summon told him to go to. I'm going as fast as I can, Kakashi, the dog summon yelled back. Then, a terrifying noise filled the man's ears. Very faintly in the distance, he could hear the chirping sound of 1,000 birds. No, Kami, please let me be on time. Please. He thought while running even faster. Then, he reached the place destined for the boy's encounter. Very easily, even through all the rain, he could spot the long, white hair of his former student. Running over to him, he saw it was the by Orochimaru's cursed seal deformed, and now unconscious body of Sasuke Uchiha. He seems to have nothing serious besides his chakra exhaustion, so he's just unconscious, Kakashi muttered, checking the boy's body for any injury and feeling his pulse. The copy ninja turned towards his summon, and saw his sad, downcast face. He knew what that meant, but he didn't want to believe it. Pakun. Where is he? I can smell a strong scent of his blood, meaning he bled a lot. His trace leads down the waterfall. Kakashi immediately went to look down the waterfall, and saw the sickening pool of blood spreading into all directions of the lake and down the river. Shunshining to the side of the lake, he looked into it, stuffing his face into the water. But besides a cloud of Naruto's blood, he couldn't find him. His summon followed him, and spoke. Kakashi, I have no trace of him, and this blood is already a few minutes old, and it leads down the river. At this point, he died from blood loss or drowned because of the river's pressure and speed, and his body is already out of our reach. I'm sorry. Kakashi stood up, took the body of Sasuke, and walked back to Konoha, an empty gaze plastered on his face, while he dispelled his summon. Knowing that Sasuke was fine besides a few bruises, Kakashi was in no real rush to reach Konoha. He silently cried for the student that failed and now was placed on his shoulder, and the student he failed and was now already far away, his corpse unfound. I'm sorry, sensei, I am a failure. Konoha. A few days later. Noise everywhere. That was the current situation in front of the Konoha gates. Everyone was loudly discussing about the three still missing ninja of the leaf, Sasuke, Kakashi and Naruto. Though most concern was for the first two. Only of the remainders of the Konoha 11 and their senseis, the Konohamaru Corps, Iruka, Jiraiya, the Hokage and her friend Shizune talked about Naruto. Even though he annoyed them all, close to the point of insanity, he had a place in all their hearts. 2 days earlier, Lee, Neji, Choji and Kiba were returned to the village. Kiba and Lee only had minor injuries, while Neji and Choji both were in critical condition because of their intense fights, and Choji especially for the use of the Akamichi red pill. Due to a medicine developed by Tsunade though, even he could survive and was currently able to recover in the hospital, along with the others. Guys look, someone is coming, a bun-haired girl called Tenten yelled to everyone, quickly getting their attention to focus on the distant figure closing in. After a while everyone noticed it was Kakashi. Immediately, everyone ran into his direction, noticing that he appeared to have all time in the world. When they reached him, everyone's gaze went to the limp figure on Kakashi's shoulder. Their eyes, particularly of the Sannin, Ino and Sakura widened in horror. That's, Sakura began in a whisper. Sasuke-kun. Ino finished in a similar quiet voice. Is he alright, Kakashi-sensei? It's only because of this curse mark he looks like that, right? Sakura said in a desperate voice. Kakashi did not even bother to answer her, to even look at her. His empty gaze just went straight forward, his legs carrying him to the hospital without a hurry. Yes, but you need to accept the mark before it can fully transform you. Whatever Sasuke did, he did it with his own free will. Jiraiya explained to the group of now two silent civilians, the Konoha 11 and the other ninja. Kakashi, where's Naruto-kun? The Hokage's assistant Shizune asked. Hearing the name made Kakashi wince slightly, but he still walked forwards, whispering to himself. First Obito, now him. Guy, Kurenai and Asuma immediately knew what that meant, and looked down onto the ground, closing their eyes in silent sympathy. Kakashi, Tsunade repeated, but already had an idea what his silence and visible depression meant, though she did not want to believe it. Kakashi gave the body of Sasuke to a few medics which then took off to the hospital. The civilians and other shinobi already went home, disgusted by the fact that Sasuke wasn't influenced, but actually intended to defect to a known enemy of Konoha on his own free will. Kakashi briefly turned to the remaining Konoha 11, their senseis, Jiraiya, Iruka, the Hokage and her assistant, and shook his head, a clear message behind it. No, that can't be. Ni-san can't be dead, Konohamaru cried while hugging his friends Moegi and Udon, which were crying as well. Everyone was dead silent, not wanting to believe the news. Sakura felt sick and held her stomach protectively, with Ino doing the same thing. Tenten went to hug her sensei, who could only lay a comforting hand on her shoulder. Hinata burst out in silent tears, Iruka, Jiraiya and Shizune were all on the verge of tears as well, while Tsunade had no visible reaction at all. Though on the inside, everyone besides Iruka, Hinata and Shizune felt truly devastated not only for his death, but also knowing how they treated him. The Junin senseis never took him seriously, yet alone train him properly. Tenten, along with all of Konoha 11, even those in hospital, never really accepted him or his skills, besides Lee, who treated him as a rival, and Shikamaru, Shino and Shuge, who treated him neutrally, and Hinata, who was too shy to speak to him. Sakura, Ino and Tsunade always, whenever he went onto their nerves with a silly joke, asking for a date in Sakura's case, or in general begging for attention, punched him into his head and sent him flying into a random direction. Now though, everyone missed his foxy smile and loud voice. Sakura-chan, don't worry, I'll bring back Sasuke, whatever it takes. That's my promise of a lifetime, and I never go back on my word. That's my ninja way, whatever it takes. Why did you have to take that so seriously, idiot? Sakura cried silently, while Ino went to her and hugged her for comfort. No, Naruto-kun. Hinata thought in mute despair. Ino, tell your father to come to Sasuke's room in the prison part of the hospital tomorrow at 8 in the morning. The Godime Hokage ordered in a forced calm voice, masking her emotions. Hi, Hokage-sama. Ino choked out. Tsunade. Jiraiya started, but was interrupted by her. You Jiraiya, go to him immediately. You have to counter his curse mark, and try to lock it away, she ordered. But are you? That's an order, Jiraiya. Nodding silently in defeat and sighing, Jiraiya went after the medics and Sasuke. Wait, Tsunade-sama, Shizune said in hurried, and still sobbing voice. But it was too late. In a swirl of leaves, she disappeared, leaving everyone behind to their thoughts. Then, for the first time, they heard Kakashi's voice. I would suggest everyone goes home and rests, preferably with a friend or with your parents. I will talk to the Hokage about a funeral for Naruto soon. The word, funeral, caused Ino, Sakura, Hinata and the Konohamaru Corps to choke out a loud sob, nearly causing them to vomit. Kakashi then, too, left in a swirl of leaves. Hokage Tower. If someone would now stand in front of the Hokage room, he or she would hear three noises: the sound of glass hitting something, sounds of gulping, and sounds of sniffing and sobbing. The Godime Hokage engaged in her favorite activity, drinking sake like a black hole. The sobbing woman already lost persons precious to her. She thought she had gotten used to that. Her lover and her brother already died, and she thought that made her strong. But now, the blonde hyperactive prankster, her reason to believe in the will of fire again, the reason she was sitting in this office, was gone, forever. And what did she do? She wasn't strong enough to just accept it and proceed with her life. No, she barely even managed to escape the others without crying her eyes out. The moment she entered her office though, her water gates broke as much as she broke. She looked at the picture on her table from the time she was retrieved by Naruto and Jiraiya. In the middle of Tsunade and Shizune, Naruto stood there with his painfully bright grin while making a peace symbol with his hand, while Jiraiya openly watched her. "Why Gaki? Why did you have to leave me, your Ba-chan?" she muttered to herself. The first time without asking for permission, Shizune entered the office of the Hokage and went straight for Tsunade. Immediately, she spun around in her chair to look outside her window, asking, "What are you doing here, Shizune? I have work to do and sake to drink," she formulated with a few sniffs in between her words. Wordlessly, Shizune walked over to her and turned back her chair, so that the surprised Hokage looked her in the watery but determined eyes. And then, she hugged her. Hugged her as tightly as humanly possible. "What? Shut up, Tsunade." That surprised her even more. Shizune never dared to be disrespectful to her, neither by just walking in nor, especially not, by talking to her like that. She interrupted her thoughts. "I know you're hurt. You are as everybody else is. So stop trying to do this on your own. No one should endure something like this alone. You already did twice too often," Shizune explained while crying her eyes out. Tsunade struggled half-heartedly at first, but eventually hugged back and cried deep into Shizune's shoulder. "Why? What did he ever do wrong? Why couldn't I die instead of him? An already broken soul in exchange for such a young and alive one. Don't say that, Tsunade. He wouldn't want to hear you say something like that. But I miss him already, Shizune. He is the reason I even am here. He never became Hokage. He saved my life and he saved my existence, and I did nothing in return for him. I just miss him, Shizune. I know, Tsunade, I do, too. Valley of the End. Kit. Wake up, Kit. Huh. Oh, it's you, Kurama. Wait, what happened? I thought I'm dead. Apparently, someone saved you and dragged you into an underground cave. Currently, both your savior and I are healing you. You should wake up, right now." And in that exact moment, he woke up, lying with his back on a stone ground, looking at the cave's wall. "You mock me, Shinigami. I'm not even allowed to die now. Your time has yet to come, young shinobi." Following the voice, he saw the outline of a human-looking figure, although everything of this person glowed in a light blue color. He had long black hair, and wore a metal battle armor, colored red and black. His face was covered in strange green marks. "Who are you?" "I am the protector of the temple ahead of you, the spirit of Hashirama Senju." "Hashirama Senju? You mean the Shadaime Hokage?" "Yes. When I was amongst the living, I built a hidden temple right here, at the Valley of the End. When the time comes, a descendant of a Hokage, or a Hokage himself should be sent out to find this temple with my knowledge in it. But I'm neither the Hokage, nor the descendant of a Hokage." "Yes, young one, you are. My spirit only comes to help one of those people. As far as I can read your bloodline, you're the son and therefore a descendant of the Yondaime Hokage and his wife, Kushina Uzumaki. I can see her bloodline in you, too. The Yondaime is my father. The hero of Konoha is my father, and no one bothered to tell me," Naruto shouted angrily at the ghost in front of him. "Yes, young shinobi. You are a descendant, and therefore have access to my temple. I can say that you have an unawakened bloodline ability, which is called chakra chains. I can only tell you have it, though. How to activate and use them, though, I cannot tell. This will be your responsibility. Now, do you wish to accept the knowledge from this temple? I must warn you, ahead of you lies a path of work and pain. The techniques here are difficult and it takes a lifetime to perfect them. Do you understand? Maybe this is a good idea. After that, I can go somewhere else, and maybe build up a new life. Far away from Konoha. Yes, I understand, it's not like I have something to lose now anyways. Very well. Follow me then. Hashirama said, and turned towards the entrance of the temple. Wait a second, Kit. I have something for you. Kyuubi said while spawning a scroll in front of Naruto. What's that? Naruto said, picking it up. Is that? Yes, Kit, it is. Awesome. Thanks 1,000 times, Kurama. And wait a second. What is it, Kit? Whenever I use your chakra, my eyes turn red and slitted, right? So could you please give me enough chakra so my eyes stay like that permanently? Very well, Kit. The Kyuubi said, while infusing Naruto with enough of his power to turn his eyes red and slitted. Since the amount of chakra needed was insignificant, the transformation was able to be held permanently. Thank you again, Kurama. Inoichi followed his instructions and went to the room, where he was greeted by the sight of the Hokage and her assistant, Kakashi, Jiraiya, Iruka and the whole of Konoha 11, with Sasuke instead of Naruto. Ah, hello Inoichi. I'm glad you could make it in time. The Hokage started. No problem, Hokage-sama. But what exactly is my task? Tsunade closed her eyes and breathed deeply once, and looked at the blue eyes of the Yamanaka clan head again. Whereas you can see, Sasuke was successfully retrieved from his defection, the whereabouts of Naruto are still unknown. We need to know exactly what happened in their fight. Thus, you will lead us through his memories, and show us the events. Inoichi nodded in understanding, and looked at his next target closely. He saw the empty look in his eyes, that ignored every movement and every sound whatsoever, and simply gazed at the wall. Has anyone yet tried to talk to him? Inoichi asked curiously. Yes, we all did, but he's completely unresponsive. Since he has woken up, he hasn't spoken a single word, with none of us, Kakashi replied. And do you think you're in any physical shape to be here? From what I've heard you were pretty badly injured. Inoichi asked the now already standing Lee, Choji, Kiba and Neji. Yush, my flames of youth are already burning again, Lee shouted in enthusiasm, causing everyone around him to sweat drop. Alright then, everyone who wants to follow into his mind, please touch me or someone who already touches me. Everyone touched Inoichi, clearly interested in the events from the Valley of the End. Okay, then let's go. Mind transfer jutsu, the clan head told, while all of the bodies in the room went limp and followed him into Sasuke's mindscape. Now, everyone please stay with me. It may take a while until I find the correct memory. Inoichi informed everyone, who nodded in understanding. Here, I found one where Sasuke and Naruto seem to be in, and there is a fight. Let's go. The Mindwalker told the group of shinobi. Upon arriving in the memory, they saw a scene from not too long ago, Gaara in his giant Shukaku form. Though, it was surprising to see Naruto standing on a gigantic frog. What the hell is that thing? Kiba asked the stunned group. That's the Toad Boss summon, Gamabunta. I trained Naruto to summon him. Jiraiya told the group in response. Impressive that he was already able to do that. Tsunade muttered in awe, with everyone nodding. Then, they saw how Naruto landed a quite hard headbutt into Gaara's face, causing his sand defense to break, and the clawed grip on Sakura to do as well. Wait, he saved me. I thought that Sasuke-kun saved me. Sakura stuttered out. Well, it doesn't seem like that, Kakashi said while bowing his head down. Sakura knew how much she laughed at Naruto whenever he told her that he saved her. Now to find out that it actually was the truth, and she never got to thank him, left her heartbroken and sobbing. Ino, again, comforted her. Daddy, that's the wrong memory. Please find the real one. Yes, I'm already at it, sweetie. Inoichi answered, opening what he thought was the correct memory. Now, they actually found the correct memory, with Sasuke and Naruto panting, while Sasuke charged a black Chidori. After all the events from Chapter 1, the group was left behind speechless, everyone sulking for themselves. I think that's enough. The head Yamanaka whispered while transferring everyone back into the real world. After everyone, including Sasuke, had woken up from the mind reading, the room was filled with awkward silence and silent tears, openly shed by everyone except Neji, Shikamaru and Shino, who tried to compose themselves. Though, crying or not, everyone shared the same thought. I'm sorry Naruto, I could have been there for you. My flames of youth have been extinguished. But for the sake of my eternal rival, Naruto-kun, I will let them burn brightly once again, Lee declared, though without his usual energy. I have failed. The first time as a leader, and I have failed. Shikamaru muttered to himself, gripping his hair while being comforted by Choji. No, I have failed as a teacher. I favorited Sasuke, hoping that he would not lose the already little connection he had to the village, and look where it brought us. I taught Sasuke an assassination technique he then used to his own comrade with. Obito was right, I betrayed my comrade, I am lower than trash. Kakashi muttered, sulking for himself. No, I have failed him. If I would have trained him better, he would be here now. I should have taken care of him, for Minato's sake. Jiraiya whispered to no one in particular. We should have. Tsunade added. Minato's sake. What do you mean? And what was that about a demon Naruto talked about? Neji asked curiously, getting everyone's attention. Since he is dead, I guess there is no use in hiding it any longer. Tsunade started and sighed. The Kyuubi that attacked Konoha once was nevered by the Yondaime. He was sealed into his newborn son, Naruto. No one was allowed to know that Naruto's father had many enemies, and that would have put him in great danger. If you ever wondered why Naruto was glared at, ridiculed or even attacked, the Kyuubi is the reason. Everyone teared up even more at the added information, and thought of how they treated him, fully understanding where his impression that everybody would be relieved by his death would come from. And here I was, talking about my horrible destiny, Neji thought. Kiba meanwhile patted a whimpering Akamaru. Sakura, Ino, Tenten, Shizune, Hinata and Iruka simply cried, while the others now made plans. Sasuke Uchiha, Tsunade started, the name dripping with venom and turning to the still unmoving Avenger. For your crimes against Konoha and a Konoha shinobi, you will be sent into a prison for the rest your life. Your chakra and Sharingan will be sealed eternally, and your mouth too, so no one has to hear your traitorous voice ever again. Remember well how this hospital looks like, because this will be the last thing you see before your cell. Anbu. Tsunade roared as two masked shinobi appeared in a cloud of smoke. Take this traitorous, despicable, weak, snake-loving excuse of a shinobi into the deepest and best protected prison cell you can find. Seal his chakra, Sharingan in his mouth. Got it? Tsunade ordered, while the two Anbu nodded and took off with the arrested Uchiha. Hey, what happened to bro? His summoning contact broke. A suddenly appearing Gamakichi asked Jiraiya. Hello Gamakichi. We should go to Gamabunta together to talk about Naruto. I think he would like to know the whereabouts of Naruto as well. Jiraiya responded. Gamakichi picked up his sad tone and nodded, leaving together with Jiraiya in a puff of smoke. I have to go back to the academy. Iruka said emotionlessly, not fully believing the situation. I will go to the memorial stone. Please Hokage-sama, don't assign me or Sakura with missions too soon. Tsunade nodded while Kakashi left. Yosh, I will run 1,000 laps around Konoha, in honor of Naruto. Lee shouted while he already took off. I will train. I want to become strong like Naruto was, his Nindo will live on me, the shy Hyuga heiress exclaimed in tears, running home. Besides Sakura, Tsunade and Shizune, everybody else left, most without saying a word. He hates the village, Shizune. I was there the whole time, his love for the village brought me here and I couldn't figure out that he hated it. Tsunade said disbelievingly, to Shizune and to herself. I'm sorry, Tsunade-sama, I should have noticed as well. Shizune replied. Hokage-sama. Sakura began, getting the Hokage's attention, please, make your apprentice. After I now lost Naruto-kun, him thinking that I didn't like him at all, I want to get stronger. I want to be strong enough to protect the people precious to me, so that something like that won't ever happen again. Tsunade thought for a moment, and nodded. I will make you suffer through the worst kind of pain ever, perhaps even worse than that one now. If you manage to survive that, then you will be my apprentice. Thank you, Hokage Shisho, I won't let you down. Konoha Cemetery. 1 week later. Hello, dear people of Konoha. Today, we say our goodbyes to a fellow comrade every person in this village had the honor of meeting, Naruto Uzumaki, Tsunade said, trying to hold in her own share of tears. This little kid was the fiercest personification of the will of fire I ever saw. He held an undying respect for this village and its ninja. Unfortunately, the constant hate from this village turned him into a depressed boy, who was happy to finally die and fulfill his purpose. Tsunade choked out as everyone turned their head down in shame. So at least in death, he shall get the honor and respect he deserves. Everyone will miss you, I will miss you, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of the Yondaime and hero of Konoha. At least in death, he will be next to his parents, as I'm sure all of you wondered why Naruto is buried next to Minato and Kushina. The crowd now looked up in shock and disbelief, feeling more guilty of their past actions. Anyone who pants to pay his personal respects now, may do so. Tsunade announced, disappearing. I will never give up, Ni-san. I will fulfill your dream to become the Hokage, and honor your name until my last day. Konohamaru said, dropping his goggles on Naruto's gravestone. Thank you for your support, Naruto-kun. You were the sunshine in my life, and I will never stop loving you. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you like you were for me. Hinata said sadly but without a stutter, placing down a picture of him in a heart-shaped case. I'm sorry how I always treated you, and how I always hit you. I can never forgive myself for that. Sakura said, placing an orange jacket from him on the stone. I will miss you, Yaki. You were the most amazing customer we had, in any possible sense. Bye, Naruto-kun, Tsuki and Ayame said, placing an unopened bowl of Naruto's favorite ramen on the stone. I'm sorry, little one. I should have let you know from the start. Jiraiya said, leaving a family picture of Naruto and his parents. I am a failure of a sensei, and I will never be able to redeem myself for that. I'm sorry, Minato-sensei, I'm sorry, Naruto. Kakashi said, leaving a picture of former Team 7. You were never a demon for me, and you will never be. Still, I could have protected you more, cared about you more and looked out for you. Bye, Naruto. Iruka said, leaving his Hitai-8. The second one he gave Naruto. You saved Tsunade-sama from herself, and I will never be able to repay you for that. But I will try to repay you. I will continue to look out for Tsunade-sama, and hopefully save her like you did, as well. Shizune whispered, leaving a picture of her pig Tun-Tun and Naruto, playing with the pig, behind. The other people from Konoha 11 left a few things as well. Shikamaru left his favorite shogi board, Choji a bag of Naruto's favorite crisps, Tenten her most valuable kunai, Neji a poem he wrote about destiny after his fight with Naruto, Kiba the collar Naruto gave Kiba Amd Akamaru for his birthday, the one he never thanked him for, Shino a part of his strongest bug hive, Ino a bouquet of her longest surviving flowers, and Lee his first green spandex sway. Meanwhile, the crowd slowly left the graveyard, not wanting to interfere with the peace of the dead anymore. After a few minutes, a busty woman with a bottle of expensive sake went to his grave again, and kneeled in front of it, letting tears flow down her cheeks. I would have loved to drink a couple of those with you one day, Yaki. Now, I will never get the chance. You have changed my life in a way I never thought someone could, not even Jiraiya could. I am truly devastated that you died, thinking you weren't important to me, but next to Shizune Amd Jiraiya, you were the most important person on this world for me, and I will forever hate myself for you dying and thinking otherwise. Goodbye, Naruto-kun. The blonde woman told, while as if on cue, it started to rain. Thankfully, Jiraiya made a little protection seal, so that the rain didn't sweep away the objects of memorial. Hashirama's temple, a week ago, right after Naruto's arrival. Woo, this place is huge, and it's all underwater. Naruto asked in awe, seeing the giant, mostly wooden temple, with dragons and other paintings covering its insides. Yes, young shinobi, I made sure to leave behind a temple worth a Hokage. Hashirama's spirit said, while he frowned upon seeing Naruto's forehead protector. Is there a specific reason why your headband has a slash? Yes, because I was hated my whole life from Konoha because of the Kyuubi sealed in me, and a dead person not even living in Konoha tells me who my parents are for the first time. I have no connection at all to this village anymore. There are very few people from Konoha I still care about, but that's it. Hashirama thought of his words, and then sighed. I'm sorry to hear that, young shinobi. I myself only ever had the pleasure to have one great enemy, Madara Uchiha, but an entire village is something different. Naruto sneered in response. Yeah, problems always seem to start with an Uchiha. Hashirama's spirit snickered a bit, and decided to take his first action. Alright, young shinobi, your lessons will start. First of all, the swords you have are special. They can be more powerful and will glow red if you want to, but you will lose control of yourself in the process. You can regain it, but the more powerful your swords are, the harder it is to regain full control. In the beginning, you will hear whispers, but those whispers turn into real voices, and then screams, asking for blood. No one has ever yet lost control entirely, so I can't tell you what happens then. Legends tell that a demon lives in there, and fights an eternal battle for control, which no one ever won or lost. Naruto nodded in understanding and carefully inspected the swords he already had in his hands. He almost felt their power and potential, and he would try to remember the immense threat. Though, he was no stranger to holding in aggression. Now, there are two main stances and styles I want you to focus on, they are called Shin and Sorazu. Shin is an offensive, and Sorazu a defensive stance. As a ninja in general, you should be flexible and able to adapt to anything the enemy might throw at you. You can find the stances in your Kenjutsu scroll, and how you counter attacks or deflections by your enemy. You may start with them. Okay, Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Multiple Shadow Clone Jutsu. Guys, you will train those sword stances here from the scroll, and the fighting styles in general. Got it, got it. The clones yelled in unison. I see you already found out the secret of the clones, I'm impressed. Yeah, on a mission, I found out that I remembered everything my clone did, even though I wasn't actually there. So I figured that something was special with them. Very well, the stances are the center of your training, so it's good that the clones start with them. Another central point is that you learn to infuse your blades with elemental chakra. They will get stronger like that, without the drawback the swords, powers give you. Okay, then I will show you a few Kenjutsu techniques. The first one is the animal blade. Animal blade is a general name, as every person has to find its own animal or creature it can sync best with. There was once a very powerful ninja which used a dragon, and therefore had the dragon blade. You have to take animals from the wildlife you have the best connection with, and focus on it, pleading for its strength. An animal spirit will come and help you. This technique is perfect to gain the upper hand in the beginning of a battle, since it enhances your strength and speed, but it constantly drains your chakra, and therefore should not be used throughout the whole fight. Do you think you know what your spirit may be? I have a good connection to the Kyuubi, and since it actually is something like a wild fox, I guess I will make it the fox blade. Really, Kit, you want to beg to me for power even more often? Taunted the demon, snickering, even though he was happy a bit. Very well then. Focus yourself onto the spirit of the Kyuubi, its voice, sound and how it looks like, and plead it to aid you and your sword, while pumping chakra into it. Then, you swirl it like that Imagine how Genji from Overwatch does it when he ults and, in your case, say, Kitsune no Ken wo kure How I understood it, it means, the fox becomes me. Then you have the one sword style, Fox Blade. Naruto nodded and created shadow clones, instructing them with the technique and to practice it. The next technique is perfect for attacking a big mass of people at once, but it leaves you very open for attacks until you charge it, and you will have to have someone cover you in a fight so that you can use it. It is called two-sword style, twin sword slash. Infuse the swords with your elemental chakra briefly after you slashed with them, and you let a wall of your element follow it. This should be used when covered or at an extreme advantage, because of how open you are before the use. Naruto nodded, and instructed another group of clones to do the task. Alright, that is enough Kenjutsu, the other techniques can be learned at another time. The stealth and hunting training will be done when you have a bit of experience with the swords. Now, we will do a few seals that will come in handy, as they are either practical in everyday life, like storage or gravity seals, or seals which can be devastating weapons, such as explosive and fire seals. Please, let's sit down, so you can practice the seals. Naruto sat down in preparation for his Fuinjutsu training. A year later, throughout the whole temple, the dominating sound was metal on metal, together with the sound of air being cut, and an occasional clone being dispelled. Gracefully swapping between Shin and Sorazu, Naruto currently fought against 4 shadow clones with only one sword. Kitsune no Ken wo kure. Naruto yelled while swinging his sword, while a smaller, entirely red version of the Kyuubi swirled around the sword, roaring, and disappeared quickly afterwards. Meanwhile, Naruto started to continuously slash through his clones, dispelling them one by one, until only a squad on the other side of the temple hall was left, which closed in on him. Naruto drew his second sword, and stood still for a few seconds, breathing in and out. The moment the clone squad nearly reached him, he opened his red-eyed, and seemingly jumped through his opponents, his swords pointing outwards like wings. Then directly behind him, a visible wall of wind followed, slicing through the clones and throwing them into all directions, dispelling them. Seeing that his spar was successful, he dropped the swords, letting them slide into their hilts, and he breathed out, lying down. You fought well, young shinobi. Meet me at this gate there in half an hour. Hashirama said, while Naruto nodded. Naruto went into his assigned room, a simple chamber with a bed and a wardrobe for clothes or weapons. The Jinchuriki prepared his normal kunai, his kunai with several seals, and prepared to go to the mysterious gate at the eastern side of the temple, while he thought about his past in Konoha. Admittedly, he did miss a few of the people who actually didn't do him wrong at all. The Ichirakus, which always treated him kindly, Lee, which was the most optimistic and kind ninja he ever met, and the Konohamaru Corps. Then, he remembered the bad memories. The rest of the Konoha 11, which either ignored or ridiculed him, all the older villagers which thought of him as the demon, and the older ninja, which did not tell him that he was the Yondaimi's son. Even for Iruka, he apparently was enough of a demon to not be worthy knowing about Bis parents. Eventually, his thoughts also shifted to the current Hokage. He had to admit that she was, hands down, the most beautiful woman he has ever met in his entire life. True, he thought Sakura was very pretty once, but Tsunade was downright gorgeous. Yes, it was only a genjutsu to hide her actual body, but still, she looked breathtaking once in her life. Even though he saved her together with Jiraiya, and he thought of her as something like her grandmother, she strode into office with his help, and basically behaved like a stronger Sakura, though he only wanted someone to talk to. Tsunade had her share of emotional scars as well, and he thought it would be the best to talk to her, thinking they had something in common. Apparently, to her he was the same as he was to anyone else. A nuisance, a demon with a purpose, but not with rights. Why, Ba-chan, I thought I was at least someone to you. I thought you could become one of my precious persons. Naruto thought, as his hands shook in rage, holding his sword tightly. Take revenge, a voice whispered. Naruto looked around, but couldn't spot the source of the voice. Who's there? Show yourself, Naruto said, going into his Sorazu stance. Let me still your bloodlust, Naruto. The voice whispered again, then Naruto realized it came from the sword. Looking at it, Naruto briefly had faint visions of fighting, burning villages, and blood around him, and heard the whispers of the sword to let it go. For a millisecond he thought about it, but quickly shook his head and dispelled the thoughts from his mind. Note to myself. Don't think about Tsunade, Naruto thought, jokingly, picked up his tools, and took off to the gate. Konoha Cemetery. The currently kneeling woman sneezed, but looked back to the grave, reminiscing about the person that now slowly, ultimately became the most important person in her life. Ironically, she realized how much of a sunshine this particular person was more and more every day after he died. The never-ending source of inspiration became her inspiration, and she wanted to honor his work and his wishes, even though in the end, he lost his love for this village. Hey Gaki, how is it up there? I hope you were finally able to meet your parents, they were wonderful people. You left quite an impression on a few people. Shizune actually asked to be trained again by me, she wants to be in her best form all the time, so that no one ever dies again on her watch. Jiraiya started to write stories where you get a whole harem for yourself, so that he can honor you in death. No, I haven't become a second Arrow Sennin and read his books, but he won't stop talking about it, not even when I hit him with all my power. Tsunade chuckled, remembering the numerous occasions this happened. She then sighed, and looked intently at his name. Me too. I know, that I will never be as good a Hokage as you would have been, but I try my best. Wherever you are, please know that we miss you Gaki, that I miss you. Very reluctantly, the busty Hokage stood up and went to her office. Wow, how's that hidden under the earth? Naruto asked in awe, seeing the gigantic forest on the other side of the gate. It is a forest artificially, and only created for the purpose of training stealth and hunting, and that's exactly what we will do now. Please, find yourself an animal and try to catch it, it's not important which one. Then you have to touch its head and imagine to talk to it, while you pump chakra from your hand into the head of the animal. Each animal has its own destined amount and speed with which you have to work, so every animal is different to hunt. Tamed animals can command others from their kindred, and be commanded by you. Very briefly, you can obtain the abilities of those animals by compressing your chakra coils onto the level the animals are. This is incredibly dangerous, since it is very physically painful and can permanently destroy your chakra coils, but you can do it longer, the better your connection with the animal is. Every skill you use with animals is a tools of the hunt technique. To effectively accomplish this, stealth is a good friend. I will teach you an incredibly strong stealth technique now, since it basically improves whenever you use it. Please, close your eyes and feel the nature, every movement, every sound and every smell it emits. Naruto was surprised by the very vague task, but nevertheless breathed in deeply, closed his eyes, and focused all of his remaining senses onto his surroundings. Remember every movement very carefully, try to view it like a rhythm, and let the chakra flow through your body similarly. Naruto did as instructed, and slowly turned very transparent, until he was nearly invisible. Open your eyes slowly, don't lose focus. Hashirama instructed, now whispering. Naruto opened his eyes slowly, and looked at himself, noticing that he was nearly invisible. More transparent than water, but not 100%. Wow, that's so cool. Naruto said, looking at himself from all angles. Yes, excellent. It is not perfect yet, but you will learn that with time and practice. This technique is called thrill of the hunt, and it's ideal to learn how to hunt, and then tame an animal. Now, please catch an animal and tame it. And how am I supposed to catch a wild animal? Naruto asked incredulously. Hashirama Senju looked at him amused and spoke, "Figure it out," leaving Naruto alone. "Okay, wild animal. I have Kyuubi's enhanced senses, this should help." Naruto remembered, looking around for a fitting animal. About 100 meters away from him, there was an eagle sitting on a cliff towering over the forest. The Kyuubi's container analyzed his situation, and saw that he had to climb up the cliff. "Alrighty, it's an eagle, so he might see me, but it would mean I could fly with the tools of the hunt technique once I have him," Naruto thought while approaching the wild animal, which currently did not look into his direction. The cloaked ninja was almost caught after he had stepped on a tree branch, which caused the eagle to turn into the direction of the sound's origin. "Shoot. Gotta be more careful," the hunter thought, walking up the cliff using the tree climbing logic, the only shinobi technique Kakashi taught him. After he reached the top, he only stood a few meters in front of the eagle, who seemed to still look into his direction. With every step Naruto closed into the bird, its gaze seemed to get more suspicious. Then, after a few more steps, Naruto stood directly in front of the graceful predator, slowly reaching out to grab it around its whole body. And then, it happened. The bird's wings flapped, and it flew away. Knowing that the stealth game was now over, Naruto dissolved his invisibility, and ran after the retrieving bird, while gradually running up the trees. He hopped from treetop to treetop, but the eagle was obviously higher in the air. "Damn it, how do I get you?" Naruto thought, and suddenly got an idea. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," he shouted, creating a solid copy of himself which ran besides him on the treetops. Naruto gripped the clone's arms and vice versa, and then the clone threw Naruto into the air, now on a level with the eagle. In midair, Naruto grabbed the bird with all his might, and then started falling. Conveniently, there was a lake where he landed, so that his fall was not as hard. Rising up, he went onto the side of the lake, trying to keep the thrashing eagle in his grip. Now, what did he say? Touch head, imagine to talk with it, pump chakra. Naruto did as he was instructed, but realized why Hashirama warned him about the different amounts and speeds of chakra necessary. On his first try, the eagle bit him into the finger after screeching loudly. Seeing Naruto's pain, the eagle seemed to do something similar to snickering. "So you think that's funny, little birdie?" Naruto said as the eagle stopped. "Well then, we'll see how you like this," Naruto continued, trying the taming process over and over again. After some time, he heard a voice speak in his head. "God, are you finished yet?" Naruto stared disbelievingly at the eagle, realizing the voice came from him. "Wait a minute, you can talk. Hey, and here I was believing you weren't able to think. Hey, shut up. But, does that mean I tamed you now?" "Tamed? Ha! Don't make me laugh. Though I admit, I am impressed that you are able to contact me, so your persistence intrigues me. So I can use your abilities now?" Sigh. "Yes you can. I must say you at least piqued my interest, for no human ever was able to communicate with me, and there were a few in the outside world that tried. While this place is artificial, I am not, and someone in here contacting me means that I can leave this place again. Oh sweet, I have a pet," Naruto exclaimed in joy. "Grr. Don't call me that, brat. Do you have a name?" "Yes, my name is Chusei," the eagle introduced. "Hello Chusei, I'm Naruto," Naruto replied. Now that we have exchanged pleasantries, a suddenly appearing Hashirama said, "I must say I'm very proud of you, young shinobi. You have successfully tamed an eagle, and therefore have access to his abilities and his kindred, and no other possible hunter is able to command them. Congratulations." "Thanks, master." Naruto bowed with respect. "From this day forward, you will sharpen your abilities, and learn a few more of the kenjutsu techniques. This was one of your most important steps in your training. 2 years later, Naruto is 17, Tsunade is 55. Do you have forgotten anything, young shinobi? The swords, the scrolls in the storage seals, my clothes are on me, and my eagle on my side. Nope. Everything's here. Naruto replied, smiling foxily. He maybe despised his village of origin, but the happiness and cheerfulness towards his precious people hasn't changed at all. Yes, you have. There is one more thing I want to give to you. Hashirama said, handing over a scroll to Naruto. Naruto inspected the scroll closer, and widened his eyes in surprise. Wood-style techniques. Master, are you sure? I mean, I don't have your Kekkei Genkai. Yes, I am. I have no use for them anymore, and I know you enough to know that you are the best descendant of my legacy. Maybe you won't have my Abelites, but to know you have my knowledge is enough. Naruto, beaming at the praise and hearing his master call him by his name for the first time, he bowed and said, "Thank you a lot, master, I will honor your knowledge until I made my last breath." I know that, Naruto. Goodbye, and please, find happiness, the former Hokage said, tapping Naruto's forehead, rendering him unconscious. When he opened his eyes again, he stood by the lake of the valley the end, a place he knew all too well. So, what are your plans now, Naruto? His new companion Chusei asked, standing on his shoulder. After their fight, and getting Gaara away from the deep-rooted mistrust and hate towards all people, he had shared his gratitude with Naruto, saying he would try to find his precious people as well, and the blonde already is his first one. He remembered their first encounter all too well. Flashback. Who are you? An annoyed Sasuke Uchiha asked. Sabaku no Gaara. You? He replied emotionlessly. Sasuke Uchiha, I will look forward to our possible fight. Gaara said, turning a bit to the side to go, and stood face to face with Naruto, which looked him deeply into his eyes. The tension rose quickly between them, as they studied each other's eyes very carefully. Kid, be careful around this boy. I can sense Shukaku the one-tails in him, and his jailers always tend to be psychopaths. Naruto and Gaara squinted their eyes, seemingly getting the same kind of information at the same time, while Temari, Kankuro, Sakura and Sasuke stood besides them, wondering what was happening. Naruto Uzumaki. The blonde-haired Jinchuriki started cautiously. Sabaku no Gaara. The red-haired one replied as cautious as him. Temari, Kankuro, let's go, he said before eyeing the knucklehead one last time, and then disappeared with his siblings. Flashback end. We certainly weren't the best friends there, Naruto thought amused, closing on to the main gate of Suna. Halt! State your business here, the guards shouted, immediately on edge because of Naruto's slashed leaf headband. Yeah, I'm searching for a ninja called Sabaku no Gaara. Can you bring me to him? What business do you have with our case cage? Case cage? Gaara actually made it. Awesome. Some private matters I have to talk about with him. Please tell him the fox wants to play with the Tanuki Aga. Hopefully he knows what this means. The guards looked at each other, confused by the strange message for their leader, but nevertheless sent someone to bring the message. Case Cage Tower. Knock knock. Come in, a stoic voice calmly replied to the knocking sound on the door. A woman with white robes, blonde hair and a gigantic fan on her back entered the room. What is it, Temari? Gaara said, slowly looking into the eyes of his sister. The guards told me there is someone outside who wants to see you, and apparently he had a message. It was something like, the fox wants to play with the Tanuki again. Gaara scrunched his eyebrows in confusion, but then widened them slightly in realization who it might be. Let him in. Gaara replied in his normal emotionless voice. Temari nodded and left the room, and reappeared after a few minutes with a very adult and strong-looking young man. Equipped with 4 swords, with black ninja clothes, and with slightly longer hair than he remembered Naruto to have. The only facial expressions he could see were different than he remembered. Instead of his deep, cerulean blue eyes and golden blonde locks, he now had red, slitted and feral eyes with a proud red mane. The rest of his face was concealed by a black mask. Though he could clearly see this was Naruto. Red or blue, he still had the same determined and confident gleam in his eyes, and unfortunately, the still somehow lonely gaze as well. That's certainly a strange code you thought of. Gaara muttered with a slightly amused tone. Well, it certainly worked, didn't it? Naruto replied in a similar amused, yet deeper tone, while he pulled his mask down to reveal his lower face, including his signature whisker marks. Gaara slowly stood up and approached his supposedly fallen friend. They stood in front of each other, until Gaara applied a quick hit into Naruto's stomach. That's for making me think you died, idiot. Gaara said, growling a bit angry, but he quickly recovered, and briefly hugged him in a brotherly way. Welcome back from the dead. It's good to be back. Naruto said, chuckling. Wait, who are you? Temari asked confused. Who the hell was this person that Gaara willingly hugged? The two broke their brief hug, and the new red-haired person turned around. Ah, don't you remember me? I'm offended, Temari-chan. Naruto said cheekily with his bright, shit-eating grin. He saw how she closely inspected his face, and then her eyes widened and jaw dropped upon seeing the familiar whisker marks. En Naruto? The kunoichi asked, disbelievingly. Hey Temari-chan. He replied. She ran over to Naruto, hugging him tightly. What are you doing here? We were told you died on a mission to retrieve this traitor. Temari asked, hissing the last words. She didn't know Sasuke very well, but she certainly did not like him. Yeah, you won't believe what happened. Naruto smiled, hugging her back. What's that noise? A voice asked, coming into the room. Naruto looked at the man coming in. He had strange purple paintings on his face, a black cat-like suit, and two puppets ready for battle. Yo, is that a way to properly greet me, Kankuro? Huh, wait, what? Kankuro asked, thinking for a few seconds while looking up and down the figure. After he had taken a good glance at the familiar marks on the cheeks, he grinned and gave the figure a hard handshake. Well, look who escaped the Shinigami. How the hell are you still alive, and where were you? We were told you're dead. And I suppose there's a reason and a story for that. Gaara added, pointing at his friends Hittite and the eagle sitting on his shoulder. Yeah, about that. A lot of storytelling later. Gaara was in a deep thinking pose, processing the information given about Naruto's treatment, his supposed death and his training. Temari looked sympathetic, while Kankuro looked ready to somebody. Finally, Gaara spoke. Naruto, you have saved me, so I want to redeem myself. As the Kage, I offer you the rank of Genin in the shinobi forces of Suna. Since you haven't formally been made a Chunin yet, I will have to put you into the Genin section first. Naruto felt glad that he was offered this opportunity, but he remembered the two missions he still had. While I am very grateful for your offer, I have still two things I have to take care of myself, and I won't be able to do that as a Suna force. What do you want to do? Gaara asked, lifting his eyebrows. My first mission will be to infiltrate the Sound Village, and hopefully destroy it. There are a few valuable files that Orochimaru has, and I need them. Do you happen to know where I can find mercenaries, good ones? Attack the Sound Village? Are you crazy? What the hell are you going to do when you meet Orochimaru there? Temari asked, dumbfounded. That's why I want to hire someone to assist me. Well, if you insist, there are a few suspicious pubs and taverns after going down the main street into the north of the village. There are always people waiting for an offer. I would actually want to come with you, but I can't leave my Kage duties now, Gaara replied. I'll come with you. Haha, to go into a battle like that is beyond insanity. I love it, and I can show you which mercenaries are the best. Suna has its own mercenaries, which are directly under the control of Gaara. They don't do regular missions, and not only for Suna. No, those people are every plague the desert lands and beyond have found, and they can work for every village, as long as their loyalty stays with Suna. Since our Jonin team is dissolved, I already joined them, Kankuro said, laughing heartily. Really? You want to come with me? Yes, it's been a long time since I had a good fight, and I want to see what you did the last 3 years, count me in. Come on, let's find some men, and in the evening we can properly catch up, Kankuro said with unlimited motivation, while Naruto nodded, following him into the next bar to find solid fighters. A few hours later, in the Red Cloud. Kankuro, those are good and everything, but no one is really standing out. I need someone who has fighting in his blood. Dude, you sound like you want Kami himself to come down and help you, Kankuro retorted, earning himself a glare from Naruto. Then, the Jinchuriki noticed a blonde, long-haired man in the corner of the pub, sitting there alone. Hey Kankuro, what's with him? Naruto asked, nodding into the man's direction. Following his nod, he saw the man sitting in the corner, drinking a bottle of sake for himself, and sighed. Him, I don't know, man. He's none of our men, no allegiances, and his reputation is very special, let's say. No partner he had ever survived, and he always leaves a big mess behind, destroying everything which comes into his path. Some say he's running away from a few tough guys. He's trouble. Naruto squinted his eyes, and said, Good, I want trouble, as fast as possible. Come on, we'll talk to him. The two slowly approached his table, and started to speak. Hey, can we sit down here? Naruto asked the figure, which nodded slightly. What do you want? There's a reason you're here, right? Yes, I heard you're a troublesome very far away, a pineapple-haired young man sneezed fighter, and where I will go soon, I want the biggest mess ever to be left. So, I have work for you. Work? Huh, here, take a drink. The man said, pushing his bottle of sake over to Naruto and Kankuro, who took a little sip each, relishing in the slight afterburn of their throats. So, where do you want to go, boy? We will attack the Sound Village soon. I am interested in a few information Orochimaru possesses, and I need to find them. A whole village? What do you two think you're gonna attack with, your scary eyes and strange face paintings? Kankuro quickly leaned over the table, being held back by Naruto. Let me go, all him, Kankuro growled loudly, while the man laughed and took a big sip from his sake bottle. After everyone calmed down again, the former blonde spoke to his possible partner again. Kankuro here is extremely strong with puppets, while I use kenjutsu, stealth and my animal companions. So you need someone for the rougher things, too, the mercenary started. Mess things up. Naruto finished. And what would be my payment? To attack a village with a legendary Sannin in it is very dangerous, you know. We will probably fight our way through to my target. I am only interested in a few files, so you two can basically take whatever you find there. Seeing the still not fully convinced man, Gaara's brother added, and I can ask the case cage for a bit of financial payment as well. After some time of thinking, the man nodded, shook Naruto's hand and laughed. Okay kid, you got yourself a deal. What's your name by the way? I like to know my partner's name before joining them into battle immediately. I'm Naruto, but I will have to ask you that my name stays with you. If you tell anyone about my name, you won't receive any payment, and we will hunt you down. The man laughed again, and took a sip from his bottle. Currently, the three-man group ate their dinner quietly, while the desert had a cool and soothing atmosphere, being looked down by the black night sky. Kankuro and Naruto remained in their black battle suits. Due to Kyuubi's chakra, Naruto was used to unbearable heat, and Kankuro always lived in the desert, so he had no problem with its climate. Deidara switched from his civilian clothing into a beige robe, while he now additionally wore his slashed Hitai 8 from Iwagakure. What's your story? Naruto said, nodding to him. Deidara sighed, and looked deeply into the campfire. You know I have the Bokuten. A Kekkei Genkei, that simply causes explosions in every way possible, was not very popular with the people of Iwa. So I left. I was hated for what I have, and probably will be in the future again, but I think it's art. My bloodline makes me special, and I like it that way. The mercenary answered cryptically, not going too much into detail. Yours? Deidara nodded to him. Konkuro simply listened while polishing and repairing his puppets. Basically the same. I have powers that were forced on me, and everyone hated me for it. People laughed at me, betrayed me, and brushed me off whenever I exceeded my purpose. One day, I had a mission to retrieve my defecting teammate. I wanted to die, and he'd me. Or so I thought. I found a place to train, a master, and now I'm here. Konoha thinks I'm dead, and I'm perfectly fine with that, Naruto said, while eating his soup. This story, it seems familiar. Is it actually him? Deidara thought, nodding while Naruto told of his past a bit. Well, Deidara, Naruto said after finishing, eyeing his blonde acquaintance, you told us that you have the Bokuden, right? So, I want you to make the biggest bomb possible. With us, I want you to show your true self, because mine is certainly strange enough, and using puppets is kinda creepy as well. Hey! Konkuro yelled at the redhead in front of him. Naruto snickered, and continued. I have no problem with your abilities, and especially not when they will be useful on our mission. Naruto smiled sympathetically. Deidara nodded happily and had a proud grin. I already took care of that. When you talked to me about the sound, I knew you didn't want any boom, but the boom itself, my finest piece of art. Look. Deidara then took a small figure of clay out of his hand, which actually did not look that impressive. Now, it might not look like much, but once I drop it, you will see the true power of my art. Yeah. The blonde shouted ecstatically, while the two others both sweat dropped a little at his explanation. Very well. I asked a few ninja. They told me the Sound Village consists of underground laboratory systems, and an additional village Orochimaru ordered to be built for all of the ninja he collected. I think we will first search through one of his laboratories, and see what we can find there. What are those files you are looking for anyways? You never told us, Konkuro asked curiously, while Deidara also leaned in. Orochimaru is known for his experiments, right? I'm looking for two of his records, from people I know his experiments have worked on. Can't you say what those experiments did specifically? Konkuro whined at the lack of direct information. Nah, can't spoil too much of their story. Naruto told, nodding towards the reader. Konkuro and Deidara nodded understandingly. That was a reason good enough to compensate their unknowingness. Which experiments do you think Naruto is looking for? I'll be happy to read your guesses. Why exactly would Orochimaru build a whole village? Doesn't that kind of destroy his underground reputation? Konkuro asked confused. Maybe he wants to have his own actual village. Many people seemed to join him the last years, according to the information of the ninja around here. I suppose to make it a bit more inviting to give up your body for a crazy Sanin, an actual village is more fitting than some suspicious underground laboratories, Deidara answered. Yeah, I guess. So, my puppets are finished. My ultimate weapon is formed, and smaller bombs are ready as well. Blade sharpened, burning and explosion seals drawn, and Chusei ready for battle. You bet, Naruto. His proud eagle cried out. And don't forget me, Kit. Kyuubi growled in Naruto's head. People, let's show the sound our arts. Naruto yelled, while the two ninja next to him placed their outstretched hands on top of his one. Right. The next morning, with everything prepared, Deidara quickly called for his bird made out of clay, and the six of them, 3 puppets took off into the direction of Rice Country. It took a while to cross Omegakure, Kusagakure and Takigakure, but on Deidara's artificial bird, they reached it by the time of noon. Hey guys, I think that's a laboratory, Konkuro said, pointing to an entrance to an underground passage. Yeah, looks like it. Land 200 meters away from it, Deidara, we will walk then. Naruto ordered and his companion nodded. The entrance. Strange. There are no guards. Kankuro whispered behind the gigantic root of a tree the three were hiding at. This place has to be filled with guards and traps. Wait a second. Naruto started when he saw a rat running in front of the gate. Tools of the hunt. Rat sight. The Jinchuriki whispered, sending his spirit into the rat. Going as fast as possible, for he couldn't stay in it that long, he ran through the gate. Looking around, he found a gray stone passage, but still, he noticed no guards. Just a dark passage leading straight forward. He left the rat's body then. Naruto's limp body moved again, and then he spoke. Strange, there are still no guards inside. It's a dark, long passage, so we have to look out for traps, the redhead instructed the others. Inside the passage, man, this place is creepy. No wonder nobody likes Orochimaru. Kankuro thought out loud, while his companions nodded in agreement. Yeah, it's damn sinister inside here, Naruto said. The three continued to walk cautiously, until they reached the point where the passage split up into three different ones. Well guys, it seems no one will see my art now, Deidara said, knowing they would split up now. Then let me give this to you, Naruto said, pointing his glowing hands towards the ears of his partners. On your right ears, you have communication seals. Pump a little chakra into them, and we'll hear everything you hear. Alright, Naruto explained, and the puppet master and Bokuden user nodded in affirmation. Then let's go, Naruto said, walking the path in the middle, while Kankuro went left and Deidara right. With Deidara, being the experienced ninja he was, it was easy to dodge the rather simple shuriken or spike traps. After some time, he reached a monstrous, but closed gate. Being the art lover he was, he threw a little clay bomb onto it, blasting the doors open. After the smoke cleared, he was surprised to see a peaceful, black-haired woman sitting on the floor, playing a harp-like instrument. Now that's very rude. Orochimaru-sama clearly instructed me that I would welcome the visitors here, and not the other way around, the woman said in her extremely sweet voice. Hee. Art always introduces itself, and I don't care for that snake. I still have unsettled business with him, Deidara said, preparing 3 clay bombs in his hand. Music is the only true art, everything else is nothing but a perversion of it. The clay user narrowed his eyes. You'll pay for that, he said, going into his battle stance. We'll see, she said, pulling on a string a final time, and suddenly, all of her hair shot out, intending to pierce her opponent. He dodged narrowly, and threw one of his clay bombs in form of a bird at the woman, which was caught her hair that she now used around her to protect herself. Bokuden. C1 explosion style, C1. The bird exploded, and the woman was briefly surrounded in a light flash. I must admit, she started through the smoke, that I certainly felt that. The blonde smirked and spoke. I hope so, I put a lot of effort into my art. With Kankuro. Arg, the hell is that? The puppet user asked while he barely stood on a spike in a ditch he fell in. Apparently, his way was free of ninja, but full of shuriken, fire and now spike traps. Suddenly, he heard a gushing voice, coming from behind him. Once he fell into the ditch, a mechanism to dispose corpses was activated, and sent out a fast stream of water, which now teared away him and his 3 puppets. He was directly pumped in front of the main entrance, soaking wet. Activating his communication seal, he said, Guys, I'm in front of the main entrance again. There was nothing, the path was full of traps, and had a dead end, the Sand Nin informed the others. With Naruto nodding to himself upon hearing Kankuro's whereabouts, he continued to walk down his way, until he reached a great hall, with periodically placed pillars, a torch on each. Still, in the middle, the path continued to a door on the other side, a white light emanating from it. He stopped in the middle of the hallway after suddenly, a familiar voice echoed through the halls. Well, I didn't think I would find a fellow leaf shinobi here. Turning around, the Jinchuriki saw a boy with long, gray hair, black and white clothes, and a sound headband. Kabuto, was Naruto's simple reply. Oh, I didn't think my name was that known yet, but I'm very proud of it. The Konoha missing nin snickered. I'm not sure who you are, though. I can't remember any Konoha nin with red hair. Say, do you happen to want to join Orochimaru-sama? The gray-haired man asked rhetorically. It's better that you don't know my name, not that it would matter anyways if that's the last thing you ever knew or not, the redhead said, grabbing the hilt of one of his swords strapped on his back. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Kabuto said, picking a kunai. Kitsune no ken wo kure. Naruto yelled, unsheathing his sword and releasing the little red form of the Kyuubi briefly. Wait, wasn't that? Kabuto's thoughts were interrupted, narrowly deflecting the empowered Naruto's blows. The two traded blows, sparks flying while Naruto more and more pressed his speed advantage. The Jinchuriki felt more and more bloodthirsty, which was only amplified by every cut he created on his opponent's body. Yes, Naruto, use me. Use my power, and strike down your enemy. I can feel that you want it, too. Confused by the voice, he eyed the sword suspiciously, feeling the power and aggression radiating off of it. That glare gave Kabuto enough time to catch the redhead off guard, slashing a bit into his chest, from his right shoulder down to his left waist. A sound of pain escaped the boy's lips, and he retreated with a series of backflips, resting on his right knee. Forced to look up, he saw Kabuto, who pressed a kunai into his throat, and slashed through it. The lifeless body of the redhead fell onto the floor, and then dispelled into a cloud of smoke. The sound nin turned around, and spotted the now unharmed-looking Naruto on the other side of the hall. You're good, you would be a fine body for my master's experiments, the medic said, going into a battle stance again and pushing his glasses up. Naruto smirked at the sound nin, and responded, oh, don't worry, I'll make good use of your master's experiments. He then returned his sword, and briefly closed his eyes, breathing in and out. Opening them, they had a much more intense red shine, as if they were red stars. Moatsukiru. Burnout. I just love the sound of that in Japanese, so I wrote it like that. Without time to react, Kabuto's body was engulfed in deep red, Kyuubi red, fire which thrashed around violently. I see you utilize the Kage Bunshin yourself, Kabuto. Naruto spoke, seeing Kabuto who now was in the middle of the hall. Placing a fire seal on my back in close combat, really witty. But what's with the fire? That doesn't look normal, wondered the medic loudly. Naruto smirked. That's for me to know, and you to never find out. Tools of the hunt. Eagle's claws, he yelled. Not prepared for the eagle approaching from behind, he tried to dodge in the last second, but was hit by an enlarged claw, hitting his legs and rendering him almost unable to move. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, the redhead screamed, creating 4 clones of him, surrounding Kabuto, who now received more and more cuts. Grrrgh, Kabuto hissed as Naruto landed a vicious slash on his right arm, which started feeling numb. Now take this, the swordsman and his clones yelled. One clone slid on his back next to Kabuto and kicked him in the air, while the clones further kicked him up. Uzumaki. Then, the real Naruto floating above Kabuto thrusted his swords into his enemy's ribcage, descending into the ground with him. Naruto Renden. The clouds of smoke from the impact cleared, and showed a violently bleeding Kabuto, with Naruto kneeling on one knee besides him. Cough, the Kyuubi kid. How? Not finishing his thoughts, he smiled and placed his hand into his chest. After he pulled it out again, he also removed his heart from his body. I don't know how you're still alive, but you'll die here. Do you see the chakra wires here? I linked my chakra system to yours. If I die today, you'll come with me. Naruto widened his eyes, and looked onto his chest to indeed see little blue lines flowing into it. Then, his attention turned to a source of laughter. Coming up from the other side of Kabuto's body, there was a clapping Naruto. Ah, yes, I've heard of this technique from my master, really a brave one. Too bad only a cage bunshin will follow you into the afterlife, little snake. Naruto's true form and shadow clone laughed at that, and then both finished off the dumbfounded-looking Kabuto. Looking down at the corpse, Naruto activated his communication seal. Yo Konkuro, do you have the need for a medic nin puppet? With a brief delay, the puppet user answered. A medic nin would be quite helpful in the future, so yes, sure, he informed. Nodding, Naruto sealed away the dead body in a storage seal, and proceeded his actual way. After some time, he came upon something that looked like the mixture of an asylum and a laboratory. Cells with beds and restraints left behind, tons of syringes and chemicals, and surgical rooms. Though none of them had any files regarding the experiments of Orochimaru. Then, he immediately heard a something that sounded like a step. He unsheathed two swords and sprang into a battle stance. Show yourself, I know someone's here. Who are you? Coming out from a room further down the corridor, he saw a beautiful girl, with long, red hair, red eyes and glasses. Her upper body was covered in a violet overall, while her lower body was covered by a pair of short pants and black stockings. Who are you, and what are you doing here? The girl asked. His chakra is so strong and warm, yet cold in the inside. He hides pain, it seems. And, what is that? Such evil chakra in a human, she thought. I asked first, give me your name, Naruto asked, eyes flaring in frustration. Karen Uzumaki. I am, or rather was the head of this station, yet as you can see, it's abandoned. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. Uzumaki. Does that mean he had family? He was told he was an orphan, so who was she? I am possible. You're an Uzumaki? Naruto asked in disbelief. Furrowing her eyebrows, she answered. Yes, as I said. Now who are you and what are you doing here? She asked sternly, preparing herself for battle. I'm Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of the Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Her eyes widened now as well. There was another one, Kushina Uzumaki. That's my aunt. You mean to tell me that you, my cousin, just walked in here randomly? Yes, I'm searching for Orochimaru's experiments. I still have unsettled business with him. Karen thought for a bit, pushing up her glasses. It all made perfect sense. The rumors about Kushina's possible son, the events of October 10th, the stories of an Uzumaki kid throughout Konoha, Wave and even Suna, everything added up, contrary to what was told to her by Orochimaru. She sighed, and then looked into the slitted eyes of her supposed cousin. Then you're wrong here. Orochimaru transferred all of his experiment records to his new palace. Nodding, Naruto asked, so, what'll happen now? She sighed again, and started to speak. I have reasons to believe that you are actually my cousin. Adding to that, what Orochimaru let me live through and told me about my family is far beyond any reason or reality. My allegiance with him is over now, and my redemption ended with the day he hid my family from me. So, does that mean I would gladly join you, cousin? She said, smiling slightly. Running up to her, he encircled her with his arms in a tight hug. Finally, I have an actual family. You're the first one I see who shares the same blood with me, he said, with a few tears running down his face. After a moment of reluctance, she returned his hug. We have more time to make ourselves acquainted later. Now, we should get going. This place is still not empty, the girl said, releasing the brief hug. Yeah, I've already taken care of Kabuto. I hope Deidara took care of whatever he found. Deidara? The red-haired girl asked. Yeah, a partner of mine. Oh, wait. Naruto again activated his communication seal, and spoke to Deidara. Yo, Deidara, we have everything we need for now. Whatever you do, just come back in front of the entrance. And leave enough of your explosives there to blow up the room. With Deidara, currently, the mentioned man was strangled by a set of hair, which pulled him closer to its origins, the head of a woman. Time to die, P. Pseudo artist. she said in a sweet voice, and finished her strangle. Deidara's eyes rolled back into his head, and the body stopped struggling. And then, it happened. Boom. Ah, clay clones, I love 'em. The real Deidara spoke from inside the cloud of smoke, which showed the deceased musician. Activating his seal, he spoke. Roger, I'll be right there. Outside of the entrance. Yo, who's the chick? Kankuro asked Naruto. While Deidara looked curious, Naruto a bit nervous and Karen irritated, with her left eye twitching. That chick is his cousin, and I would prefer to be called Karen, idiot, the girl answered. Don't underestimate an Uzumaki, Kankuro. Never. Naruto warned, while the sand nin gulped at the two threats. Now since we are happy and reunited, Deidara started, interrupting the little fight, do you have the records you need? No, I don't. We will go to the main village, and somehow have to infiltrate Orochimaru's palace, find the records, and then it's showtime for you, Deidara. Naruto spoke, while all the others nodded and said Blonde smirked at the last part. Yeah, can't wait to finally test my baby, he said. We should take a rest over the night, and then, we can attack tomorrow in the morning, Karen suggested. Sounds good, but first, let us bury this godforsaken place, Naruto said, turning his face to the entrance. You left the explosives there, right, Deidara, the Jinchuriki? Yeah, I did, the clay user answered. Karen sighed, and looked into the flame of the campfire. My family died long ago. From that point forward, I was alone in my village, Kusagaker. I was used because I have a special healing ability. If you bite me, then you are able to fully heal yourself, at the expense of my own chakra. This left many scars behind, and all those times I was abused to heal others, they still haunt me. Orochimaru then took me with him, and I wanted to leave. He knew who I was, but told I had no remaining family, and he used me for experiments, and for healing, too, she finished, shuddering. Naruto laid a comforting arm around her shoulder, causing her to flinch slightly, but then relax and lean into the embrace. Don't worry, Karen, with us, you're safe. I won't let anything happen to you, to any of us. I will always protect my precious people, and I don't go back on my word. That's my ninja way, the redhead exclaimed, earning himself nods from his teammates, and a Karen leaning deeper into him, while Chusei nuzzled her cheek affectionately. Naruto chuckled. Chusei seems to like you. Maybe you should keep him for the mission tomorrow, he said. Thanks, Naruto. I owe you something. She sniffed slightly. Hey, that's what's family is for, right? He grinned foxily. Yeah, she said, looking back into the flame of the campfire, and then remembered something. Hey, what's with your eyes? I mean, those slits are strange. Naruto nodded, and replied to them all. Kankuro probably already knows from Gaara, but you too. He started, referring to Deidara and Karen, don't. I'm a Jinchuriki, the Kyuubi is sealed inside me. That's one of the reasons Konoha hated me. Whenever I use his power, my facial features change, and I even get a red chakra cloak that resembles a fox. A while ago, the day I was supposed to die, I asked Kurama, Kyuubi's name by the way, to pump a little chakra into my eyes constantly so they stay red, and color my hair red as well, so that no leaf ninja recognizes me if I happen to meet one accidentally. So that was the strange chakra I sensed. Karen thought. Poor boy, I don't know if I can even look into the eyes of one of those people ever again, Kankuro thought. The Kyuubi, so it's really him, Deidara thought. Wait, you said one of the reasons you were hated was the Kyuubi, but what are the others? Karen asked her cousin. Naruto chuckled, and looked in the flame again, a sad smile on his face. You sit next to the dead last of Konoha, number one unpredictable knucklehead, obnoxious loudmouthed brat, the one who's too much trouble to deal with. In the eyes of nearly everyone, I was unnecessary ballast. Karen frowned sadly at the story, and everyone was silent for a moment. Well, I'm an obnoxious loudmouth myself, so your attitude is fine by me, yeah. Deidara said, grinning at his partner. You saved Gaara from himself, man, and I will be eternally grateful for that, dead last or not, Kankuro added. You're my family, and I accept and love my family as they are, even if we don't know each other well yet. A group of loudmouths, that will be fun, Karen finished jokingly. Looking everyone in the eyes and seeing their honesty, he nodded. Thanks guys, that means a lot to me. After a brief silence, Deidara started to talk. So, how do we do this tomorrow? I mean, I just want to blow something up there, but you wanted some experiments, right? The redhead nodded. Do you know where Orochimaru keeps the records of his experiments, Karen? Yeah, I know, he transferred all of his files into his personal chambers. They are in the Otokage mansion. The problem is that I don't know where his chamber is, so you'll have to find it yourself. He nodded, and looked into the flame with a thoughtful frown. Okay guys, here's the plan. The next morning, okay boys, there's Otogaker, Karen yelled, due to the noise of the wind passing them on Deidara's bird. So, Kankuro and I will go down there. When we're finished, I will contact you and you will give them their surprise. Got it, Deidara? Naruto said, causing the addressed man to nod with a maniac grin. Hee hee, they will love my art. Karen looked confused at Deidara, and asked. For you, explosions are art? She asked. He shook his head, and yelled. No, art is an explosion. Everyone's sweat dropped a bit, but laughed afterwards. Okay, we're right above the mansion, you two can drop now. Good luck guys, and be careful. Contact us through the communication seal and we will find you, Karen said. Nodding, Naruto and Kankuro jumped from the clay bird down onto the roof of the Otokage mansion, making sure to feather their landing and minimize the thud sound. Unsheathing a sword and enhancing it with wind chakra, the Jinchuriki slashed a circle through the roof right below them, the circle from the roof quickly caught by the puppet master and laid silently next to the hole. Before entering, Naruto stuck his head through the hole, to check if there were any guards that might be alarmed. Only seeing an empty hallway, Naruto let himself fall through the hole, quickly followed by Gaara's brother. They looked around in the dim wooden passage, and decided to go right, signalizing each other with hand signs and nodding. They followed the way until they reached a corner. Naruto looked around the corner carefully, and noticed 3 guards, facing them with their backs. Naruto whispered. 3 guards, 20 meters from here. I take 2, the one left and in the middle, you the right. Kabuto's chakra scalpel is pretty silent, too. Kankuro nodded and prepared his new puppet of Kabuto, while Naruto crouched, 2 swords already unsheathed. Every step was made with utmost care, hoping the guards in front of them did not get suspicious. Step. Nothing. Step. Nothing. Step. The guard in the middle stirred a bit, stopping the 2 dead in their tracks, while Naruto signalized to stop in a halt motion of his hand. The Oto guard though did not turn around, but continued to stare ahead, so Naruto and Kankuro walked again. Step. Nothing. Step. Nothing. And then after a few more steps, something happened. Step. The right guard turned around, and was greeted by the puppet of Kabuto, swinging a chakra scalpel at his throat. Any scream, any word, any action was stopped immediately, and swapped with a slight gurgling noise. Naruto quickly sliced through the throats of the remaining, and seemingly rather poorly trained guards. He sheathed his swords back quickly, and caught the 2 guards, hands on their mouths to annihilate any escaping noises, while Kankuro ordered his puppet to do the same. Naruto formed his signature cross-finger handseal and whispered, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The entire, now cleared hallway was filled with Narutos, with each of them taking out the rat from the underground base which he securely stuffed in an extra pouch. He had a feeling he would need it again. All of them placed their rat on the ground, formed a few hand seals and now all whispered, Tools of the hunt, toxic rat plague. The rats scurried to the 3 corpses and overran their bodies. Kankuro wondered what the technique was doing, especially since the rats seemed to be chewing. After the rats were done, All shadow clones and their rats dispersed, leaving now only the original Naruto, Kankuro, one rat and a clear ground. What the? Kankuro said. Acidic spit. The technique is called toxic plague for a reason. Naruto answered, chuckling a bit, and already starting a few hand signs again. Tools of the hunt. Rat sight. His body fell unconscious and was quickly caught by Kankuro, while the Jinchuriki now walked in the rat's body. Okay, where are you files, where are you? He finished the rest of the corridor the three guards were in, and walked around the corner to the right, nothing in his sight. He continued and now passed a corner again, going left this time. Like a labyrinth. Naruto thought, continuing his walk. Around the corner, the wooden passage ended with a closed door, two guards standing in front of it. They already looked more focused than the ones from before, seeing how tense they were because of the rat's movement, even though they didn't it upon seeing it's only a rat. Leaving the rat quickly, Naruto opened his eyes and regained consciousness, feeling how his wrists already hurt from the long compression of his charca coils. His partner noticed his pain, and how he rubbed his wrists, and therefore ordered the Kabuto puppet to heal his wrists. Thanks, Kankuro. Naruto whispered. So what did you see? His partner asked. A big door, two guards in front of them. They are stronger than the ones before, and they look straight ahead. The other one's placement was just convenient because of the many side passages that they have to guard, too. So, what'll we do? Naruto and Kankuro both thought, until Kankuro smirked and whispered. You told us something about invisibility, right? A minute later, Naruto's back now faced the wall, 10 meters away from the corner he was supposed to cross. Ready? His puppet-using partner asked in a low whisper still. Naruto nodded, and went through some hand signs. Thrill of the hunt. While he turned invisible slowly, he half whispered, half growled like a feral cat. Grog. Listen. Now he was fully concealed, every trace of him minimized. He walked around the corner, and saw how the guards seemed almost unsuspecting, with only a slight edge. Naruto crouched on all fours, like a predator, and slowly walked towards the guards. One of the guards seemed to get a strange feeling, while he slowly reached out towards his weapons pouch. Naruto slowed down his pace a bit, trying to ease the worries of his opponent a bit, which seemed to work. Then suddenly, a kunai swung and embedded itself with a loud thud. Ha! What was that, you idiot? One Oto Nin laughed heartedly. Shut up. You had the feeling there was something too, haven't you? The other guard shouted back. Well, it seems there isn't anything, as you can see here. Right above them was a slightly sweating Naruto, crouching upside down on the ceiling. Phew, that was close. Now your turn, Kankuro. The puppet user waited a few seconds to make sure his partner was in position. He took his Kabuto puppet, and shook it. Clack clack clack. The guards immediately got into a fighting position, and narrowed their eyes while still looking down the hall. Clack clack clack. You heard that too, right? One guard asked, and the other one nodded. Focusing themselves on the continuous, suspicious sounds from around the corner, the two slowly went to follow the noise. After a few steps, Naruto silently descended to the ground, embedding his two swords into both guards' spinal cord. Then he repeated the procedure with the rats. Good job, Kankuro. The man walked around the corner with a proud grin. Anyone could have taken out those were Chunin, maybe even Genin. That was nothing. With a tick mark on his forehead, the Jinchuriki whispered violently, tell me that back home, and I'll make sure to kick your. Now, let's get in here. Cautiously, they walked to the door, and surprisingly, it was open. Poking his head inside, he saw an empty bed, a sparring field, and most importantly, countless shelves full of scrolls, folders and chemicals. So, you know which one to search, Kankuro. The puppet user nodded, and they split themselves up to look for the files. Now, where are you, Naruto thought, skimming through the files. No, there you are, the redhead thought. Now, I need the genes, too. The genes were found rather easily, since they were far too important for the snake Sanin to be left in some corner. Noticing a rather special scroll, he took a look at it and its title. The Art of Animation and Reincarnation. Might be useful someday. Leaving the ocean of shelves, Naruto asked, Yo Kankuro, do you have the file? The catsuit man left the shelves, too, with a file in his hand. Yes, here it is, the puppet master said, handing over the file to the Jinchuriki, who quickly stored everything into a scroll and stuffed it into his pocket. And what? A voice behind them started to hiss, do you two think you're doing? Instantly activating the communication seal connected to Deidara and Karen, Naruto turned towards the all too familiar voice behind him, while Kankuro readied his Kabuto puppet. The figure frowned upon seeing the puppet. I already wondered what took him and Karen so long. So the two of you ed them. Naruto smirked and started to speak. I hope you're not too sad about him, you can find another kisser anywhere on this world, Orochimaru. The Sanin went out of the shadows, revealing his long, black hair, yellow snake eyes, purple paintings around his eyes, gray, white and black robes, and a smirking face. A Suna nin and a defected Konoha nin. What a strange pairing. The snake user hissed with an intrigued voice. So you have taken a liking for my experiments, I see. Wouldn't you rather be here, and let us see if they can be repeated? Thanks, but no thanks. In my future, you unfortunately have no place, the redhead said, drawing two swords. Come on guys, I hope you hear me. Kukuku, that's very unfortunate. Who are you though? You should be 16 or 17, and a former Konoha nin. I should know you. Orochimaru said, before opening his mouth and drawing his own sword, Kusanagi. Wouldn't you like to know? Naruto spoke, and then charged at the Sanin with his dual swords, while Kankuro sent out the Kabuto puppet and his already blue flaring chakra scalpel, the clashing sounds resonating throughout the room. With Karen and Deidara, we will have to descend and find them, Deidara shouted at Karen. I know, but I can only feel faint chakra signatures in the whole mansion. It's probably because Orochimaru and Naruto fight with their swords and Kankuro with his puppet. We have to wait for a spike, then I can feel them better. Then keep looking. Deidara ordered the redhead while looking down at the mansion. With Naruto and Kankuro. Grr. I can't come near him, Naruto thought. His opponent either deflected the blows of Naruto's swords with his one, or shaped his body in abnormal ways to evade them. He truly was a legendary Sanin, being able to evade 3 blades at once. Use me, Naruto. You need me. Ignoring the voice, Naruto connected another blow with Orochimaru's sword and pushed against it, while the puppet user was distracted by a mud clone. Kukukuku, tell me, young leaf nin, what does one want with my kind of work? The last time I checked Konoha hated me for it. The snake taunted. Don't call me a leaf nin. I'd rather be a demon than a leaf nin. Big words, but a demon, being or using one, always has a price. Hopefully my price isn't to be so ugly and pale like you. Smirking and hissing, Orochimaru jumped back, while controlling his Kusanagi in the air. Naruto deflected the blows from it, and substituted himself with a shadow clone, while he ran at Orochimaru's retreating figure at full speed. Notoryu. Saikuru. Two-sword style. Rhino resolve. He pointed up both of his swords, at the height of Orochimaru's head, and spun around, trying to incapacitate him. The snake Sanin dodged the first few spins, and substituted himself with a log, which was cut clean by the swords. At the other side of the room, his opponent threw a shuriken. The Jinchuriki heard the swirling of the weapon and easily sidestepped it, but missed the sound of the metal embedding itself into wood. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The snake Sanin muttered, while the weapon, and its 1,000 clones turned around and came swirling at Naruto once again. Seeing the rain of weapons, he did a few hand seals and shouted, Fuden, Kase no Kabe. Wind style. Wind wall. A wall of wind materialized in front of the redhead, and caught the numerous shuriken, but left him open for a slash of Kusanagi. Naruto winced and immediately felt as if all of his veins were burning. Poison, Orochimaru said, knowing why the redhead was confused. Hehe, the poison of Manda, if I may add. It takes a surely devastating effect on the body. Naruto gritted his teeth in pain, and Orochimaru smirked. The next second, the snake Sannin was stabbed right through his heart by a chakra scalpel, and kicked into the air by the Kabuto puppet. Naruto took the opportunity, and with a quick dash, was slicing through Orochimaru. Itoryu. Saigo no Kokyu. One sword style. Last breath. His sword covered in wind chakra, he slammed it into Orochimaru's head, causing the body to descend into the ground and creating a small crater. The body of Orochimaru laid on the ground unmoving, until it suddenly opened its mouth and released a new Orochimaru, unharmed and without a scratch. Kukuku, those are surely interesting techniques you have, they haven't been used for quite a while. You wouldn't happen to offer yourself to share them with me. Naruto again gritted his teeth, while Kankuro just frowned at the warrior in front of them. Use me, you know you have to. Feeling as if a gate was holding back an incredible flood in his mind, and knowing how the potion still spread through his body, he cursed and opened the gate, releasing the thoughts of blood ending. And then, everything was a blur. Naruto screamed in pain as his head was overwhelmed and his skin turned red. Before any of two confused persons in the room could react, they heard two voices from Naruto, his normal one and a deep, demonic one. Umbral trespass. The Jinchuriki disappeared into three little red clouds, which quickly flew into Orochimaru. When they entered him, two of Naruto's swords appeared above his head, hovering. What's this? The snake Sannin thought. The room was filled with Naruto's sinister laugh, until he materialized above the head of his opponent again, grabbed his swords and slashed a clean line through Orochimaru, who was barely able to evade a lethal blow. Cursing in pain, Orochimaru pointed his arms towards the enraged fighter, snakes leaving them in his mouth, wrapping around Naruto. Mandara no Jin. Formation of 10,000 snakes, the snake Sannin yelled, burying the now red-skinned warrior in his snakes. Though his body was more and more poisoned and bitten all around, his will, now amplified by the demonic powers of the sword and two tails of Kyuubi, refused to falter. Kankuro tried to cut through the snakes with the chakra scalpel, but to no avail. They came more than they were destroyed. He's struggling against the snakes. No, he will release himself. The Sannin panicked, concentrating even more snakes into his jutsu. But then, he was surprised again. Boom. To his left the wall was blown off by a gigantic explosion, causing all three in the room to be thrown away, and the snakes to disappear. Looking towards the big cloud of smoke, Orochimaru could only see the outlines of two persons, standing on a giant bird. From the cloud, dozens of yellow chains of chakra emerged and wrapped themselves around Naruto, who still thrashed violently and screamed, and Kankuro, pulling them away. I have them, let's hurry up and leave. Karen yelled and Deidara nodded, the bird of clay ascending and flying away, while Naruto and Kankuro hung down, only held by Karen's chains. Orochimaru watched the retreating people after he stood up again. His eyes narrowed after he saw who it was. Karen, and that blonde idiot. What a strange bunch he has gathered there, he thought. Karen meanwhile healed the injured and poisoned Naruto, though still with his restraints, while also calming his mind with another healing jutsu. Naruto visibly calmed down and ceased his thrashing, becoming still. Then, he opened his red eyes again, looking very tired. Hey guys, what happened? He said hoarsely. I don't know man, something took over you back there with Orochimaru, maybe the Kyuubi. Though, it didn't look like it. Kankuro said. Okay. Wait, what's with the sound village? Hehe, look down and you all will see. Deidara chuckled. Everybody looked down to see the crowd gathered at the mansion of the Otokage. Obviously, the first explosion has gained a lot of attention. Deidara looked through the hole he created previously, and saw Orochimaru still standing there, looking above him. Winking at him with a wide grin on his face, he threw a little mass of clay down at the Otokage mansion, down to the still wondering crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, Deidara yelled on his retreating bird, causing everyone to look at him. Do you like art? I hope so, cause with me so close to you, you should always keep in mind that art is an explosion. The crowd wondered what the statement meant and Orochimaru widened his eyes. Oh no. Deidara laughed maniacally, and yelled finally. Finally this village gets what it deserves, for its actions and existence. Bokuden. C3. The little mass of clay expanded into a gigantic mass of clay, nearly the size of the Otokage mansion itself. Then, it exploded. The entirely village was quickly engulfed in something that resembled a sun which flew into the earth. The wind gust from the explosion was almost enough to throw everyone off the bird. Dude, what the is that? This is insane. How can someone possibly create such an explosion? Kankuro yelled at Deidara, the explosion still going on, without a sign of stopping. The blonde moved his right index finger in a no motion and answered, just like magicians, artists never tell their secrets. Meanwhile the two redhead were back at healing and being healed again. At last, this village of criminals has found an end, Naruto whispered, and passed out from exhaustion. Karen nodded, and remembered another task. Talking to Chusei, she strapped 2 scrolls there. A storage scroll, and a letter. Chusei, you need to fly to the office of the Cage in Suna, quickly. He will need those scrolls before we reach him. What? This is an outrage. Denying someone his birthrights, even the knowledge of his parents' identity, and sending the same person on a suicide mission against direct subordinates of a wanted missing nin, that's unbelievable. It may sound hypocritical, given the more than wrong treatment we gave our Jinchuriki and Lord Cage in the past, but at least we had a few tiny shreds of humanity, shouted a civilian, and a member of the Sunagaku Civilian Council. We should cut the ties with this village. I never liked it anyway, muttered an elder by the name of Lady Chio. We should not act too abruptly. To instantly declare hostility against the Hidden Leaf Village, for an act we almost committed to the full extent ourselves, would be an overreaction. A member of the Shinobi Council replied to the elder's request. This is true. The calm and emotionless voice of the red-haired Cage called out. And I know that Naruto would not want to cause problems to Suna that he understands is his own, he is very humble about that. However, I will not let that slide without any consequences. Hereby, I request to revoke our ally status to the village hidden in the leaves, and to change it to a neutral status. If we can't trust them to treat one of their kind with a minimum of respect, how should we know if they would treat our shinobi any different on the battlefield? Our strong ties with Kiri are enough to compensate any potential loss of trade. He continued, getting mostly understanding nods, and a few frustrated faces which hoped for a harsher treatment. Naruto's way of changing the psychopathic jailer of the One Tails into a still emotionless, but more empathetic human being had been the only connection they felt for Konohagakure. Everyone in favor of neutrality? Gaara asked, getting all the hands from his council. Everyone against? He asked, getting no hands at all. Then from this moment on, Konoha and Suna are neutral. Matsuri, please send a messenger bird with my declaration and reasons for the annulled alliance to the office of the Hokage. The Shukaku Jinchuriki ordered his assistant with short brown hair, a typical Suna robe and rope darts equipped at her waist, and gave her a scroll. Hi, Cage-sama. She stammered a bit, leaving the council chambers. This meeting is closed, thank you for your patience. The redhead finalized, causing everyone to bow slightly and leave into their respective directions. Meanwhile, he went to his Cage office, and met his assistant there again. He nodded to her, while she nodded and blushed at him, hurrying out of the hallway. I'm wondering why she's always doing that, he thought. He entered his office, and noticed the familiar-looking eagle at the window. Isn't that Naruto's bird? He thought, walking over to it and taking the scrolls it carried, while the bird flew away again. A letter? The Cage thought and opened it. Dear Keisuke-sama, my name is Karen Uzumaki, former head medic of Otogakure and, as I found out, cousin of Naruto Uzumaki. As my cousin told me and certainly you already, he was searching for experiments from Orochimaru. If this letter reaches you, it means that our mission was a success and we will return to Tsunade soon. Additionally to this letter, I will send the records of Orochimaru's experiments, and highlight the specific parts that are most important to Naruto. I humbly request you, Keisuke-sama, to prepare your leading scientists and medics for Naruto's arrival. As you might have already guessed, Naruto wants to undergo these experiments himself. Given that he is a Jinchuriki, especially of the mightiest Biju, and the official heir of the Uzumaki clan, his stamina and recovery rate is inhuman, and therefore the experiments should go easy. Yours sincerely, Karen Uzumaki. P.S. Naruto was infected with the poison of Manda, the snake boss. I am able to stabilize him, but without a surgical room, the poison will stay in his system. He wants to do these experiments on himself. That is certainly unexpected. Tamari. Gaara called out. A few seconds later, his sister walked into the room. Yes, Gaara, please go to the Central Hospital of Suna and the Institute of Science. Find the leading doctors and scientists and tell them to be here tomorrow, 6 a.m. sharp. Okay. His sister nodded and went off. Now, let me see those experiments. What have you planned, brother? Gaara said, opening the first page of the first file. Subject number 137. Name. Tenzo. Birth name, Tadei Yamato. Type of experiment. Infusion of Kekkei Genkai. Type of Kekkei Genkai. Wood style by Hashirama Senju, Shodai Hokage of Konoha. Process. Continuous adaptation of subject #137's cell structure and genetic coding to Hashirama Senju, with the addition of his actual genes. Subject number 137 is the only known survivor of this process. Result. Successful transfer of the wood-style Kekkei Genkai. Current status of subject number 137, ninja of the village hidden in the leaves. Warning. CRTICAL failure rate. Danger level red. I guess those are his cells then. The Keisuke thought, holding the flask from Orochimaru's mansion. He carefully dropped the scroll and flask onto his desk, and opened the second file. Subject number 248. Name. Kitamaru. Type of experiment. Animal-human crossing. Animal. Spider. Process. Infusion of spider blood, poison and DNA, molding of human and animal genetic information with chakra. A person with enormous chakra reserves required. Result. Controlled growth of up to 4 additional arms, manipulation of spider webs, usable as weapons. Current status of subject number 248, dead. Warning. Constant attention of advanced medic needed. Spider poison can cause irreversible damage. With medic, danger level yellow. Gaara then switched his attention to the circles and notes Karen added to the file. Only controlled growth of 2 additional arms required, more arms and all other abilities from spiders not wanted. 4 arms and a Kekkei Genkai. Naruto sure aimed high. He somehow does always. Gaara thought, amused. That's the influence of Kurama, for sure. He always wanted everything, and do the unthinkable. Shukaku thought inside of Gaara's mindscape, amused as well. Gate of Tsunade, the next morning. Quick. I need a surgical room. Manda's poison is still in his system. Karen said after she saw the group of people standing with Gaara, assuming they were the doctors and scientists she requested. Gaara, Tamari, the doctors and scientists, Kankuro, Deidara, Karen and an unconscious Naruto were brought to an emergency room in the hospital. Most of the people went inside, but some were blocked. I'm sorry, only the staff of the case cage, Karen Uzumaki and the case cage himself are allowed in this room now. Understanding, though still reluctantly, everyone agreed. Gaara went in for half an hour to look at his best friend with a concerned face, and then left the room to find Tamari, Kankuro and Deidara. He seems to come along fine, the Kyuubi's defiantly doing his work. the case cage informed the group, relieving their concerns. You, Gaara said, looking at Deidara, you are the mercenary Naruto and Kankuro hired, right? Deidara nodded. Then let's go into my office, we will discuss the payment for you helping Naruto. That's the minimum I can do for him at the moment. Both of them started to walk, until Kankuro interrupted the two. Hey, wait. The retreating figures turned back to the puppet user. Wu looked into Deidara's eyes. That move you pulled off back there, it's frightening as hell, but it means you're pretty damn strong. You're not that bad, man. You should join the mercenary guild of Suna. Naruto wanted to join Suna later, too, and I'm sure Karen would come with us as well. It would be awesome to have you in our squad, the Sand sibling said, extending his hand in a way a businessman would. Deidara looked onto the hand with a deep, thoughtful hand. Those people were the first ones who accepted his, admittedly frightening Kekkei Genkei, and with a group full of obnoxious loudmouths like he was one, he felt a sense of belonging. Grinning idly, he shook Kankuro's hand with an equally strong grip. Sure, as long as I get to blow up something on a regular basis. The two were interrupted by Karen leaving the room Naruto currently resided in. So guys, I'm glad to say Naruto's fine. We have extracted the poison of Manda. His other injuries are not that bad, he should be fine tomorrow. But that's not all, right? I heard he wanted to undergo the experiments he stole from Orochimaru. Temari asked the redhead medic, who nodded. That's true, but thankfully, the files are very detailed, and Naruto together with the Kyuubi has a very strong body. We will need 24 hours at most for the wanted results. That reminds me of something else. We will need you now, Kazekage-sama. A lot of chakra is required for one of the experiments, and the chakra from you and the tailed beast inside of you should be more than enough. Gaara nodded and replied, yes, I will do that, but first, I officially offer both of you, Karen Uzumaki and you. Deidara. The man spoken of said. And Deidara a place amongst the mercenary guild of Sunagakur. You will automatically get the last known rank you possessed. The Kazekage said, and noticed the state of Deidara's Hittite, and the lack of one from Karen. Since I guess you being here is not in harmony with your last village, I will research you in the bingo books of Iwagakure and Kusagakur. Karen finished this time. Yes, exactly. Deidara already accepted his offer. Do you do too, Karen Uzumaki? She thought of it, and asked, is Naruto a part of the guild as well? No, he said he wanted to finish two things first, because he couldn't do that as a force part of a shinobi village. Those experiments were the first thing he wanted to do. I want to know what the second thing is, though. Still, he wanted to join as a genin afterwards, and if you all join the guild, I'm sure he will, too. She nodded, and finalized her decision while pushing up her glasses. Okay then, count me in. Thank you, Kazekage-sama. Gaara nodded, while holding up his hand and waving it dismissingly. Please, Gaara is just fine. Friends of Naruto, and especially family of Naruto, are my friends as well. I will prepare your contracts and headbands, you can come to take them in the evening. Deidara, I'm afraid we will have to postpone your payment until then, my presence is still needed here. No problem, I can wait for a bit. More time to prepare my next piece of art. Yeah, Deidara exclaimed, while Kankuro and Karen's sweat dropped, and Temari and Gaara looked confused. His previous partners knew exactly what he meant with art. Alright then, please lead me to Naruto, Karen. Kankuro, Temari, please let the cooks set up a banquet for tomorrow. I want to celebrate my brother's survival once he leaves the hospital. The Suna leader said, while Karen walked back into the operation room. Temari and Kankuro left to the Sabaku estate, preparing their get-together, and Deidara walked back to the camp of his new squad, making new charges of clay for his next possible fights, and also a few nice traps, just in case someone would want to interfere with his art. The next morning, the Hokage groaned. Paperwork, the bane of her existence. It piled itself up without any hope of its growth slowing down. She downed a large gulp of sake, and looked at all of the pictures standing on her desk. The one of her brother Nawaki, the one of her dead lover Dan, and of course, the photo with her, Jiraiya and Naruto. She sighed with a shaky breath, until she was interrupted. Tsunade-sama! Shizune yelled, barging into the office of the Hokage. Not so loud, Shizune, the busty blonde said, gripping her head from her headache. Sorry, but I have a message that will more than likely spike your interest. And what would that be? Tsunade said uninterestedly, taking another sip of her bottle of sake. Orochimaru's village. It has been completely destroyed. The drinking Hokage immediately spit out the gulp of sake in her mouth and coughed a few seconds afterwards. What do you mean destroyed? She asked, completely flabbergasted. With destroyed, I mean destroyed. One of Jiraiya's spies said the village was annihilated in an explosion, and that 4 people left the village from the sky. Explosion, sky, but how? Here, the daimyo of Rice Country added entries into their bingo book. Apparently there were still witnesses who survived. The Hokage's assistant said, handing the files over to her leader, which she inspected then. Name: Sabaku no Kankuro. Current village: Tsunade. Appearance: black cat-like suit, violet face paintings, scrolls on his back, Tsunade Hitai 8, puppets. Rank: B. Abelites. Puppet Master. Wanted for infiltration of Otogakure, the Otokage mansion, stealing classified information, and fighting the Otokage. Bounty: 50.000 Ryo. Name: Karen Uzumaki. Current village: last associated village, Otogakure. Appearance: long red hair, red eyes, black glasses, violet shirt, black short pants. Rank: B. Abilities: Advanced Medic, Uzumaki, Chakra Chains, Bloodline. Wanted for treason against the Rice Daimyo and Otogakure, and the coordinated escape with wanted criminals. Bounty: 60.000 Ryo. Name: Deidara. Current village: last associated village, Iwagakure. Appearance: long blonde hair, covering the left eye, beige clothes, concealing most of his body, slashed Iwagakure Hitai 8. Rank: S. Abilities: Bokuden, Bloodline. Wanted for the destruction of Otogakure and the massacre on Oto Ninja. Warning: capable of destroying an entire village alone, engage with utmost care. Bounty: 200.000 Ryo. Name: unknown. Current village: last associated village, unknown, probably Konohagakure. Appearance: spiky and long red hair, red eyes with black vertical slits, sleeveless black shirt, black pants and black face mask, slashed Konohagakure Hitai 8, 4 swords. Rank: S. Abilities: Advanced Kenjutsu, Fuden. Wanted for the infiltration of Otogakure, the Otokage mansion, stealing classified information and fighting against the Otokage. Warning: in possession of yet unknown powers. Engage with utmost care. Bounty: 100.000 Ryo. Sabaku no Kankuro. Isn't that the brother of the Case-Cage, Gaara? What did he have to do with all of that? The Hokage wondered. We only know that Kankuro joined the mercenary guild of Tsunade 3 years ago, so it's possible he was hired for the job. The Hokage nodded, and then asked. Red hair and red eyes. Advanced Kenjutsu and in possession of 4 swords. I can't remember us having such a ninja, Shizune. Do you? The assistant shook her head, and replied, sorry Tsunade-sama, I don't know that person. Did Jiraiya's spies possibly find out what happened to Orochimaru? Shizune, again, shook her head. No, it is likely that he died in the explosion. Tsunade nodded. We still need to be careful about him, he is not one to die easily, it is possible he's alive. Inform me when there's new information. Hi, Tsunade-sama. And here, you have a letter from the Case-Cage, Shizune said, handing her the envelope. Thank you, Shizune, you're dismissed. After her assistant left, she opened the letter and began to read it. Dear Hokage-sama, recently, I have been informed that my close friend Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze has never once been informed about his heritage, and that his father was none other than a Hokage. To deny a gentle soul, such as my brother was one, the knowledge and ownings of his heritage willingly, ignoring the already harsh treatment he received, a procedure I know all too well, is, to put it simply, outrageous. Especially the close relationship the two of you had would lead me to think you would inform a 14-year-old kid about his mother and father. Since this is a signal for me that Konoha apparently does not value its citizens, neither as humans nor as ninja, in an even worse way Suna did previously, I hereby revoke our ally status and declare Sunagaker and Konohagakure neutral. I hope Konoha finds the path back to its will of fire again. Sabaku no Gara, K's Cage of Sunagakure no Sato. At the end of the letter, Tsunade cried soft and silent tears, which gently ran down her genjutsu kavir, flawless face. Every sentence of the K's Cage hurt and felt like a stab to her heart. He was right, and she knew it. Of course it said in the files of her favorite blonde knucklehead who his father and mother were, together with the strict order to not tell him who they were. It broke her heart to not do it, but she knew it was an order by the Sandaime himself. Sue the Jonin who knew of Naruto's parents and her lived up to it. It was obvious that the letter was very personal for the Case Cage as well. Heck, the reason why he was made Case Cage in the first place was because of how Naruto changed Gaara during the Chunin exams. When he first arrived at the cemetery of Konoha, he simply ignored all the sorrowful and pitiful looks from the people, but especially the ones that the rookies, Team Guy, their senseis and all the other people formerly closer to Naruto, including Tsunade herself, gave him. He just walked silently to his grave, Kankuro and Tamari by his side. XC. Flashback. Every attempt to talk to him was met with a sickening silence, until he reached the grave and looked at it with a emotionless, but slightly disgusted face. It was impossible that the first person he really shared a bond with besides his siblings now laid 6 feet beneath him in a grave. Gently, he went on both of his knees, while both of his siblings placed a comforting hand on his shoulders, a look of sadness on both of their faces. The redhead ran his fingers over the name of his fallen brother gently, tracing every letter, every curve of the 3 words embedded in stone. "What have they done to you, brother?" he asked. "I hope the one responsible for this has been taken care of." He started, standing up and slowly leaving again. "Because if it hasn't, I will find him myself, and show him a second time why I'm called the ultimate weapon of the hidden sand village," he finished, seething, leaving as fast as he entered. Sunagakure. I feel like shit. A certain Rehead groaned in his mind, slowly opening his eyes. He was greeted with a plain white ceiling, and immediately recognized the structure of the unknown room, a hospital room. "Ah, good morning, Mr. Uzumaki Namikaze." He heard and turned around, spotting a middle-aged man in a white robe, apparently his doctor. "We have finalized all your requested experiments, and your body has endured them quite well. Here, I have the instructions from the files on how you start to train your new abilities. Since Kyuubi did a fine job to rebuild your body again, you're free to leave when you wish. The Case Cage invited you to a banquet in his estate. Turn right after you left the hospital, and you should already see it." "Alright, thanks doctor." Naruto replied a bit hoarsely, grabbed the papers and stretched himself. Everything felt normal. Well then, let's see Gaara. He thought, leaving the hospital in his battle gear again, and walked towards the Sabaku estate. Immediately, he saw the looks people gave him. Friendly smiles. Some mercenaries even greeted him with a pat on the back after hearing what he accomplished in sound from Kankuro. Wow, those people are so warm-hearted around here. He thought in awe, until he reached the Sabaku estate. The Jinchuriki knocked on the door and waited, until a girl around his age opened the door. "Oh, hello, you must be Naruto-san. Please, just Naruto is fine," he replied to the kind girl. "Okay Naruto, the Case Cage is waiting for you inside. Your partners are here, too," she said, letting him into the mansion. The dining hall is down the corridor here, she instructed, following the guest. Naruto opened the gate and saw a monstrous hall, a table for 50 people, full of food, walls full of gold and paintings from former Sabaku family members, a cozy-looking fireplace, and Deidara, Karen, Kankuro, Tamari and Gaara sitting at the end of the table. Ah Naruto, it's good to see you're on your feet again, Gaara said, smiling slightly as Naruto took the seat next to him, while Chusei flew from Karen's shoulder onto his. He nuzzled his head playfully, while Naruto chuckled a bit and scratched his eagle's head affectionately. Yeah, you know me, I can't stay lying down too long, the other Jinchuriki said, grinning sheepishly. Thank you for bringing him here, Matsuri. Please, have a seat, the cage said with an emotionless yet gentle voice. But Gaara-sama, she stammered. Stop it, Matsuri, how many times have I told you it's Gaara? Not Lord Cage, not Gaara-sama, just Gaara, he ordered sternly. His assistant blushed, and nodded, something everyone in the room besides Gaara and Naruto seemed to notice. Strange. Some people like to be addressed so submissively by pretty girls, you know, Deidara mused, causing Kankuro, Tamari and Karen to laugh, Matsuri to blush even harder, and Naruto and Gaara to just look more confused. What do you mean? The confused cage asked. Ah, nothing. Old joke amongst mercenaries. Deidara answered dismissingly. Ah yes, I almost forgot. Naruto, please greet two of our new Jonin and parts of the mercenary guild of Sunagakur, the Shukaku Jinchuriki said, waving to Deidara and Karen. What? Your Jonin? Naruto asked in awe. Yeah, our last rank was Jonin, so we were immediately were made Jonin of Suna, Karen explained to her cousin. And now you're both mercenaries as well.